Genius, a beacon of human intellect, lights the path of innovation. With boundless curiosity and relentless dedication, geniuses shape our world. However, the road to genius is often paved with hardships. It's through these trials and tribulations that true genius are assessed. Here, as per Union Calendar 3157, today's date is June 21st. The present location is Alliance Academy Virtual, specifically the Virtual Theater within Area 52, Seth Canyon. Ms. Rita is introducing the Star Empire Grizzly Academy Press Club. Currently, a live broadcast is in progress, focusing on the assessment of graduates from mainland colleges and universities this year. Here arrives Bai Kingwei, a graduate from Nanliu College. Similar to previous years, graduates who manage to successfully pass the 9th level of difficulty will receive a valuable +1 rating on their resumes. Thus, the anticipation is palpable as everyone eagerly awaits to see if any graduates will conquer the 9th difficulty test tonight, or if it remains an elusive achievement once more. Ms. Rita encourages everyone to remain patient and await the results. Bai Kingwei, too, seems to be on edge, eagerly awaiting the outcome. At that moment, a young boy unexpectedly interrupts, expressing surprise at encountering her in this setting. This boy appears to be quite forward, quickly approaching Kingwei. With swift movements, he lights a lighter and brings it close to the stick in Kingwei's mouth. He proclaims that she is their greatest hope for this session and inquires about the level of difficulty she has conquered. However, before Kingwei can respond, it becomes evident that the stick in her mouth isn't a cigarette, but rather chocolate sticks. As the stick begins to burn, the boy realizes his mistake and swiftly apologizes. Bai Kingwei candidly admits that she dedicated most of the night to her efforts, but she could only reach the 7th level of difficulty. This revelation disappoints the boy, casting doubts on Kingwei's prospects for graduating this year. Another student concurs with this sentiment, questioning her chances. In the midst of this conversation, the discussion shifts to a man who has yet to arrive. One student inquires about his whereabouts and is informed by another that if this individual intends to join, their target must be the 9th level of difficulty. The mysterious man they eagerly await has not made an appearance yet, leaving uncertainty about whether he will indeed show up. At that very moment, the enigmatic figure known as Ling makes his entrance. Ling, a graduate from Nanliu College, elicits excitement from those present. 4 years ago, Bai Kingwei had been the rising star among the first-year geniuses, but Ling's arrival was accompanied by tremendous power that swiftly overshadowed all other geniuses in the Xingao Empire. Ling went on to shatter various records, leaving the entire Xingao Empire astonished. However, he never disclosed his true identity and always used the codename Ling. In the hearts of all Xingao Empire students, Ling stands as the epitome of strength. As the countdown commences, Bai notices that only 20 minutes have passed. The boy who had previously praised Bai Kingwei is now enthusiastically cheering for Ling. Tension and excitement fill the air as the timer suddenly stops, leaving everyone puzzled and wondering what has just occurred. Well, Ling really managed to pass. A new day dawns at Nanliu College, and over at the maintenance agency, Lin Chuan is engrossed in his work on a helmet. He's renowned as the shadowless robot for his exceptional skills. His colleague mentions that to truly observe his repair process, one needs to use a holographic image to slow it down by 10 times. Meanwhile, AI Yun enthusiastically updates Luxian about the events of the previous night, emphasizing how talented students from other countries appeared to struggle. Luxian, however, downplays Ling's significance, citing the unbreakable 99 center element code lock in mainland colleges and universities. This gravity meta code has remained unbroken for over 300 years. Amidst this discussion, the girls express their skepticism about Lin Chuan's quick repair time of just 15 minutes. Luxian playfully suggests he should slow down, but AI Yun appears to be quite impressed. AI Yun praises Lin Chuan's exceptional maintenance skills, whether in the military, garrisons, or among the knights. He expresses his desire to join the maintenance departments of these 3 branches. With that, the girls make their departure, leaving Luxian appearing disheartened. Luxian harbors feelings for AI Yun, and Lin Chuan presents some hard facts that exacerbate Luxian's sadness. Lin Chuan reveals that AI Yun's family holds high-ranking nobility status, while he himself is of mixed orc heritage. The notion of a love story between a princess and an orc seems nearly impossible. Luxian laments that people often say one should find the motivation to fight for their future if they have a dream. But in this case, it appears to be nothing more than his own fantasy. Lin Chuan attempts to bring some perspective to his friend, emphasizing that this is the reality they must face. Later that night, Lin Chuan finds himself wandering, pondering his own future, while Luxing is preparing to head to the training camp in Laho City. Lin Chuan's attention is drawn to an Imperial escort airship, and he wonders why a war-related emergency vessel is present in this location. Just as he contemplates moving on, his gaze falls upon a spherical object, leading him to wonder if this is the heart meta code. With curiosity piqued, Lin Chuan swiftly picks up the object and examines it. To his astonishment, it turns out to be the legendary 99 Centroid code lock. Determined to unlock it, Lin Chuan sets to work, and within a minute, he successfully cracks the code. The moment the lock is opened, the spherical object shoots high into the sky, resulting in a resounding explosion with a loud boom. Lin Chuan lies in his bed, his thoughts consumed by the mysterious explosion and the enigmatic object he had found. Tomorrow, he's due to graduate, but his future remains uncertain. In an attempt to clear his mind, he decides to set aside his concerns and get some sleep. However, as Lin Chuan sleeps, it appears that something unusual energy stirs within his body. At 5:30 a.m., his alarm rings loudly, showing no mercy even on the last day of school. Lin Chuan reluctantly gets out of bed, contemplating the life of a corporate slave. It's at this moment that he notices strange marks on his body, leaving him genuinely shocked. He rushes to the bathroom to examine them further, but as soon as he stands before the mirror, the marks inexplicably vanish. Lin Chuan soon notices that even his wounds have miraculously vanished, leaving him feeling quite perplexed. To clear his mind, he decides to engage in some exercise while pondering the mysterious stone ball. As he reviews his stats, Lin Chuan makes a surprising discovery. His Centroid compatibility has been restored and is now at 12%. This revelation fills him with joy, as it means he can finally attend the training camps without concealing his identity as Plume. While examining his grades and the details of the training camps, Lin Chuan's attention is drawn to the news headlines. They all revolve around the previous day's explosion, with investigations confirming it as a terrorist attack initiated by the Frostblood dukedom from the Western continent. In essence, Lin Chuan finds himself branded as a wanted terrorist. The 99-layered metacode lock on the stone ball was considered only a theoretical possibility, and now that Lin Chuan had encountered it in reality, he was certain that the stone ball held a profound and shocking secret. With both the military and the police department launching extensive searches for the stone ball, Lin Chuan realizes he must escape promptly, hoping he isn't too late. Lin Chuan observes that there are more patrolmen than usual today, but the station hasn't been completely barricaded, giving him a chance to exit Nanluo City. As he heads toward the station, he spots a group of stranded individuals whom the policemen are clearly refusing to let leave without permits. This situation irritates Lin Chuan, and he considers turning back. However, at that moment, one of the policemen notices him and instructs him to remove his hat and show his identification. Lin Chuan complies with the policeman's request, removing his hat and presenting his identification. He explains that he's a graduate of Nanluo Academy and urgently needs to report to his training camp. Inwardly, he's anxious about his situation and wonders what he should do next. However, just as things appear bleak, a hand lands on Lin Chuan's shoulder, and to his surprise, it's Professor Xiang Dao. They leave together, and after boarding the train, Lin Chuan can't shake the thought of the Allied Academy's virtual platform closing in half an hour. He realizes he needs to repay Professor Xiang's favor. Once inside the virtual platform, Lin Chuan, under the alias Plume, asserts that he possesses a solution to the 36-layered metacode locks layer hypothesis. Lin Chuan held immense gratitude for what Professor Xiang had done for him, and he was confident that the solution he was about to provide would be a cherished gift. As anticipated, Professor Xiang Dao was genuinely thrilled and appreciative. Lin Chuan eventually reaches the White Arrow Harbor training camp and successfully enrolls. A senior at the camp remarks that Lin Chuan was rather fortunate, as he had just met the training camp standards by breaking through to Stage 3 Centroid Force right before his graduation. Welcoming Lin Chuan, the senior instructs him to change into the training camp's equipment, officially making him a member of the White Arrow Harbor training camp. Excitement fills Lin Chuan as he's presented with the equipment. In this moment, a striking young woman passes by, and he instantly recognizes her as Mu Shuangai. The instructor notices Lin Chuan's interest in Mu Shuangai and proceeds to provide some background information. He explains that Mu Shuangai is a reserve guard student with a formidable family background. Additionally, he points out the guy standing beside her, introducing him as Mai Lun, who is recognized as a genius, having reached stage 7 in Centroid Force. What's even more noteworthy is that Mai Lun could have become an instructor, but he has chosen the role of Mu Xuanai's bodyguard. Lin Chuan recalls the numerous sparring sessions he had with Mu Xuanai on the Alliance Academy's virtual platform. Although they've crossed paths before, he believes she shouldn't have recognized him. After donning the provided equipment, Lin Chuan is pleasantly surprised to find that he can access the Centroid BattleNet. He smoothly logs into the system, and it promptly generates a character for him. Within moments, the character creation process is complete, and the system prompts him to collect his reward from the Alliance Academy virtual platform via Xingao's training camp. Given the difficulty of returning to Nanliu, Lin Chuan requests the system to transport him to Centroid City. Swiftly, the system transfers him to this picturesque city of Centroids. Standing before an archery shop, Lin Chuan assesses that this place offers more affordable options than others. Deciding to train here for a while, he enters the shop and finds the facilities to be top tier. Lin Chuan, determined to test his skills, contemplates whether he can surpass his previous limit of storing 2 rings of energy in the bullets. To his amazement, when he takes a shot, he discovers that he has already achieved 5 damned rings. The system notifies him that his capabilities have increased by 50%. Lin Chuan harbors doubts about the gun, prompting him to try another one, but the result remains the same. It becomes evident that Lin Chuan had reached a level of 5 rings long ago, and with enough Centroid force, he could perform at his original level. With the entrance exam scheduled for tomorrow, he decides to focus on practicing his Xingao basic gunmanship further. After some time, Lin Chuan receives a notification that he's about to log out, and he realizes that 2 hours have passed swiftly. In the next moment, the enigmatic energy within his body activates and then vanishes once more. Lin Chuan is left pondering the many mysteries surrounding the stone ball, realizing there is much he still doesn't understand. As Lin Chuan hears the wailing sirens of police cars, he becomes concerned about his safety and quickens his pace to investigate. Approaching the scene, he spots numerous police cars, indicating that something significant has occurred. From behind, a breakfast vendor calls out to him, offering breakfast discounts. Lin Chuan seizes the opportunity to inquire if there's been an incident. One of the vendors informs Lin Chuan that he heard about a dispute among several families over the White Arrow Fish King, leading to a fight. The other vendor dismissively comments that none of them could catch the White Arrow Fish King with their meager skills. Furthermore, he mentions recent deaths related to the situation and advises Lin Chuan to be cautious. Lin Chuan reflects on the comparison between the White Arrow Harbor Police and the Nanliu District Police, personally finding the latter to be better. Upon spotting a police car with blood on it, Lin Chuan instinctively covers his face to avoid drawing attention to himself. Thankfully, he goes unnoticed. Lin Chuan promptly decides to leave the scene and shift his focus back to preparing for the entrance examination. The next day, the senior administrator reiterates the examination rules and instructs the examinees to form groups for the target shooting part of the examination. Each group has 3 attempts to achieve the best possible results. When the senior guy assigns Lin Chuan to group number 5, a murmur of gossip ripples through the crowd. Lin Chuan begins to suspect that group 5 might not be the most desirable team. However, his concerns deepen when he notices that Mu Xuanai, along with her bodyguard, is also placed in group 5. Lin Chuan realizes why nobody wants to be in this damned group. Team 5 enters the shooting area, and Mu Xuanai takes the lead. She gets into position, carefully aims at the target, and fires the first shot in succession. The Mu family of Duncarton was renowned not for their gunmanship, but for their prowess in close-quarters combat, enabling them to breach enemy lines, and their exceptional skills with heavy artillery. Mu Xuanai readies herself for another round of firing, and this time, she passionately takes her shots, achieving an accuracy rate of 61% while currently reaching the range of 4 rings. Despite her disappointment with the score, Mai Lun becomes irritated, emphasizing that her performance is already impressive. Lin Chuan had anticipated that she would perform well, considering her prestigious family background, and he acknowledges that she shouldn't be underestimated. Next, it's Mai Lun's turn to aim at his target, and he attains an accuracy rate of approximately 65% within the same range of 4 rings. Among all the university graduates, those who could attain a 5-ring proficiency could be counted on one hand. Even if they reached this level, it was challenging to maintain an accuracy rate of 70% or higher. Lin Chuan, at this point, initiates his shooting, and it's quite evident that he has reached the 5-ring level. Realizing this, he quickly starts to deliberately make mistakes, hoping that no one has noticed his true power. Instructor Cray notices Lin Chuan's behavior and asks if he's okay. Lin Chuan explains that he's just feeling a bit nervous and requests a break. However, this act of innocence comes a bit too late. Mu Xuangai and Mai Lun have already observed everything. Mai Lun elaborates, stating that Lin Chuan initially had no control over his power, but managed to gain control later. Lin Chuan's background is exceptionally ordinary, but paradoxically, the more normal he appears, the more problematic it becomes. Mu Xuangai can't help but wonder about Lin Chuan's remarkable strength, and the possible secrets he might be harboring. Her curiosity about him seems unusually intense. Instructor Cray appears to be impressed as Lin Chuan achieves an accuracy rate of 35% with 3 rings. Lin Chuan expresses his gratitude to Instructor Cray for the guidance. Inwardly, he considers himself fortunate, knowing that if he had achieved an accuracy rate above 85%, these people would have died of shock. Mai Lun also compliments Lin Chuan for his impressive performance. Lin Chuan starts to wonder if Mu Xuangai noticed that he had reached 5 rings. However, Mu Xuangai takes the opportunity to formally introduce herself, extending her hand for a handshake. Lin Chuan reciprocates with a formal introduction and offers his hand for a handshake. Just as their hands are about to meet, Mai Lun intervenes and inserts himself between them, taking hold of Lin Chuan's hand and introducing himself. Mai Lun suggests that they exchange some blows to learn from each other, but Lin Chuan pretends to be naive and claims he has something else to attend to, postponing the request. In reality, Lin Chuan is desperately trying to distance himself from these individuals, as he fears that if he's forced to reveal his true strength, he'll be exposed. He quickly departs, leaving Mai Lun staring at his retreating figure, a sense of familiarity creeping over him. Lin Chuan arrives at the Centroid BattleNet training ground and commences his practice, all the while planning to delve deeper into the mysteries of the stone ball once he becomes stronger. Currently, he must remain vigilant in concealing his true identity. However, his focus is interrupted by a sudden notification, indicating an urgent mission requiring everyone's presence in the lobby. Lin Chuan quickly ponders what this mission could be and wonders if it might be related to his well-guarded secret. Instructor Cray gathers everyone, expressing that they've arrived at a troublesome time. He shares the grim news that numerous murders have already occurred this month, and advises them to remain vigilant during their patrol duties. Instructor Cray specifically calls out Lin Chuan, instructing him to team up with Mu Xuangai and Mai Lun for their patrol duty. Lin Chuan continues to feign ignorance, portraying himself as weak and claiming that he would be a burden to his teammates. Both Mu Xuangai and Mai Lun couldn't resist giving him a side-eye look. Lin Chuan is well aware of the dangers lurking in the harbor and understands that he could probably achieve a higher grade if he were to reveal his true abilities. However, the risk of exposure is even greater, making him tread carefully. Suddenly, a short individual from another team objects to the arrangement and calls out to Instructor Cray, requesting to switch places with Lin Chuan. Mu Xuangai, seemingly frustrated with the situation, assures Lin Chuan that since they are already acquainted, it's not a problem for them to be grouped together. No. Lin Chuan would be extremely trouble, and he personally wanted Mu Xuangai to join the other group. Instructor Cray appears to have an inkling of Lin Chuan's true intentions to escape but maintains a polite demeanor, encouraging them to learn from each other. Lin Chuan boldly brings up the presence of police cars near the harbor and mentions hearing about a few deaths in the area. Mu Xuangai, on the other hand, decides to take the opposite approach, reassuring Lin Chuan that based on their capabilities, they can adequately protect themselves. With this hope that nothing untoward will occur, the team proceeds with their duties. The harbor area is heavily secured with a strong police presence. During their patrol duty, some unruly individuals taunt Mu Xuangai, and Lin Chuan considers the situation highly precarious. Mu Xuangai becomes infuriated with these troublemakers, especially Lin Chuan, who merely observes without taking any action. Lin Chuan points out Mai Lun, her elite hidden bodyguard, and suggests that she send him to deal with the troublemakers. Lin Chuan plays up his own weakness and low grades in an attempt to excuse his inaction. Well, this was lies, all lies. Lin Chuan attempts to catch up with Zhu Hua, a police officer, to gather information about the murder cases. However, Zhu Hua advises Lin Chuan to steer clear of these dangerous matters, emphasizing that knowing too much isn't a good idea. Furthermore, Zhu Hua reveals that these crimes were perpetrated by an elite crew, and there were at least 3 different groups of criminals involved. The major concern now is that if the truth were to become public knowledge, it would incite panic among the residents of White Arrow Harbor. After a series of suspenseful moments, a White Arrow Fish King suddenly leaps from the water and swiftly disappears back into the depths. Lin Chuan is relieved that it was just a false alarm. However, a burning sensation unexpectedly washes over him, strangely calming his nerves. Despite the momentary reprieve, they continue their journey with a lingering sense that something isn't quite right, and they could feel it. Mu Shuang'ai attempts to use her family's secret awareness technique to discern any hidden threats but finds nothing amiss. They press on steadily along their path. Lin Chuan catches a whiff of the unusual floral scent, which has now started to diminish, and begins to wonder about the nature of these peculiar occurrences. As the team continues their investigation, they are suddenly halted by a group of policemen who inform them that no reserve students are allowed to enter. This news frustrates the members of Team 5, as they were eager to proceed. Mu Shuang'ai senses that something is awry at the location, but even her family's awareness technique fails to detect the exact nature of the problem. Lin Chuan considers himself fortunate that they didn't encounter any formidable opponents. However, he remains skeptical about the burning sensation on his forehead, wondering if it might be what's known as a murderous aura. Just then, Lin Chuan is summoned by the instructor, who believes that this patrol duty incident could be considered one of the best lessons for the young man. As the team moves forward, they come across numerous lifeless bodies strewn across the area, prompting them to question if these individuals are indeed deceased. The scene before the team on patrol duty, with a significant number of lifeless bodies, instills fear and unease among them. Lin Chuan reflects on how this situation is incredibly intense, especially for newcomers like themselves. The officers engage in a serious discussion, and the nature of their conversation piques Mu Shuang'ai's curiosity. She seeks to confirm if these murders are indeed the work of blood elves. However, one of the officers offers a stern warning, cautioning against leaking any information about the situation. He then proceeds to share information about the blood elves' hunting practices. According to him, the blood elves of the Western continent feed on fresh blood, much like vampires on Earth, and they have engaged in numerous conflicts with humans. Instructor Cray directs Lin Chuan, Mu Shuang'ai, and Mai Lun to follow Officer Zhu, indicating that they don't need to remain at the current location. Lin Chuan is greatly relieved that they can leave this dangerous place behind, considering it best to depart as swiftly as possible. Instructor Cray contemplates whether this is truly the rumored tragedy of White Arrow Harbor unfolding once again. They embark on their journey back to the academy. Along the way, Lin Chuan questions Zhu Hua about the murders that occurred before their arrival, specifically whether they were committed by the Blood Elves. Zhu Hua assures Lin Chuan that the previous murders were not the work of the Blood Elves, as such cases cannot be easily covered up, and their empire closely monitors such occurrences. He emphasizes that the most recent case, however, was undoubtedly the doing of the Blood Elves, and even their superiors would be taken aback by it. Mu Shuang'ai adds to the conversation, asking Lin Chuan if he wasn't aware of the bloody ritual in which the Blood Elves hunt in White Arrow Harbor every few decades. This revelation strongly suggests that the horrifying legend of White Arrow Harbor is indeed true. Mai Lun elaborates on the legend, explaining that the Blood Elves engage in large-scale hunting of the people of White Arrow Harbor every few decades, but the cases have never been solved. The legend is well known to everyone in White Arrow Harbor. Mu Shuang'ai adds that it's believed the Blood Elves go on a killing spree every 50 to 60 years, yet each time, the culprits have evaded capture. The case files for these incidents alone fill an entire house in White Arrow Harbor's guard post. Lin Chuan, increasingly concerned about the danger, begins plotting a way to avoid fieldwork. However, Mu Shuang'ai becomes angry with him, questioning why he even joined the training camp if he's such a coward. Lin Chuan continues to feign fear, claiming his weakness and expressing anxiety about facing danger. Mu Shuang'ai, clearly exasperated, covers her face with her palm and declares Lin Chuan to be completely hopeless. She seems determined to discover how long he intends to hide his true strength. Lin Chuan reflects on the events that have unfolded, grateful that they didn't encounter any Blood Elves and that Mu Shuang'ai and Mai Lun didn't expose his true abilities. He acknowledges that this world is far more perilous than he initially realized. Only a few days have passed since Lin Chuan graduated, but it feels like an eternity since that stone ball altered his life. While he remains uncertain about the stone ball's nature, its benefits are evident. Lin Chuan chooses to keep this transformation a secret and resolves to train more efficiently. His top priority is to develop the strength needed to protect himself, as survival in this dangerous world hinges on it. In the shadows, the monsters are busy devising their next attack. The unexpected arrival of the Blood Elves disrupted their original plans. Now, the monsters are determined to proceed with their scheme, even though they anticipate the situation will worsen when the Special Guard team arrives. In hindsight, they regret not eliminating them earlier. One of the monsters inquires with their leader if they can finally indulge in some human flesh, as they've captured a few humans. The head of the monsters encourages them to prepare for a gruesome feast and orders the slaughter of these captured individuals. Their ultimate goal is to overrun White Arrow Harbor. As the darkness takes over, there's something really creepy surrounding the White Arrow Harbor Guard post. Half a month has passed at the White Arrow Harbor Guard post, and Mushuanai is visibly frustrated by the mountain of paperwork she has to deal with. She longs to go out and investigate the site or simply enjoy some fireworks. She expresses her exasperation, exclaiming that she feels like she's dying. On the other hand, Lin Chuan seems to be quite content, comfortably seated in an air-conditioned office during the sweltering summer, enjoying his drink. He argues that fieldwork is extremely dangerous, and working at the guard post is relatively safe. He suggests that they don't need to be on edge all the time. Mushuanai, irritated, points out that it has already been half a month since they arrived in White Arrow Harbor, and if they continue like this, she'll have to return to Duncarton without accomplishing anything. In the midst of their conversation, Mai Lun reassures Mushuanai that they can venture out once the Special Guard team arrives, as they remain unaware of the lurking dangers outside. Lin Chuan experiences the same familiar faint searing pain and senses that something is amiss. He discreetly peeks out of the window to observe the guards, who are at least at Centroid Force Stage 7, sent by the Mu family. It strikes him as odd that Mushuanai, who appears to be just working at the guard post, is surrounded by such powerful individuals. It seems that young ladies from wealthy families are indeed in a league of their own. The unease grows within Lin Chuan as he feels that something ominous may be on the horizon. Meanwhile, Mushuanai continues to express her frustration about being stuck at an office desk and yearns to go out. Mushuanai notices Lin Chuan's fearful expression and reassures him that even if all the thugs in their vicinity converged on them simultaneously, they wouldn't make it past the front door. However, Lin Chuan is deeply focused and suddenly exclaims that something is amiss at the morgue. He urgently informs his teammates that there's something wrong and implores them to take cover. His teammates are bewildered, but Lin Chuan acts swiftly, grabbing Mushuanai and pulling her down with him. In the next instant, a massive explosion rocks the area. The team quickly identifies the attack as a flesh bomb and dons their helmets to protect themselves from the poisonous blood fog it releases. Lin Chuan is relieved that their telepathy helmets are equipped to filter out the poison, but he's perplexed about how the guard post was bombed in the first place. Suddenly, they hear loud gunshots, and it becomes clear that the attackers are none other than the monsters. One of the monsters insults the officer, calling them trash, and they begin firing back at the monsters. The monsters appear unfazed by the bullets and become more excited upon realizing there are girls present. One of the officers instructs the junior members to contact the elite guard post and request backup immediately. But time is running out as the monsters continue their assault. Mushuanai hears Sister Jia's voice, the receptionist who was attacked by the monsters, and she informs Lin Chuan that Sister Jia was supposed to get married at the end of the year. Mai Lun realizes that their situation isn't favorable, and he suggests that they should try to escape. However, Lin Chuan believes that being in an office makes them less likely targets for the attackers, so he advises against making any rash moves for now. Mushuanai is concerned that the monsters want to kill everyone in the guard post, but Lin Chuan tries to reassure her and tells her not to jinx it. Mai Lun is aware that the monsters are on the second floor and asks Lin Chuan to take care of Mushuanai. Lin Chuan instructs Mushuanai to refrain from making any hasty actions. Just then, the door opens and a monster enters, claiming that he can smell the delicious scent of human girls. The situation escalates quickly, and it becomes clear that running is the only option. The monsters are closing in on the team. Mai Lun decides to confront the monsters but realizes that they are far too powerful and arrogant. They start firing bullets at him, and while he manages to evade them for a while, it's clear that he's in danger. Lin Chuan acknowledges that Mushuanai was right. These scoundrels are here to kill them. Mushuanai is deeply concerned for Mai Lun's safety and implores Lin Chuan to go help him. She knows that Mai Lun is in danger, especially when facing an exceptionally strong opponent like the alligator human monster. Mai Lun fights valiantly but understands that these monsters are overpowering him. One of the monsters taunts Mai Lun about his high-quality equipment, expressing satisfaction that it will soon be theirs after they kill him. They laugh devilishly as they launch a brutal attack. Mushuanai, worried about Mai Lun, asks Lin Chuan to help him. But as she turns back to look for Lin Chuan, she realizes that he has disappeared. Lin Chuan found himself in the midst of a fierce battle against two of the monsters. He formulated a strategy. If Mu Shuangai and Mai Lun could join forces, they might stand a chance against the alligator human monster. Lin Chuan's role was to keep the two scoundrels distracted while searching for an opportunity to eliminate them. Mai Lun, aware of Lin Chuan's actions, informed Mu Shuangai that Lin Chuan had likely engaged the two gun-wielding monsters and that they needed to devise a plan to confront the alligator human. Mu Shuangai agreed with the plan, and they both prepared to unleash their full power against this formidable adversary. The alligator human monster, however, showed no intention of backing down. He was determined to tear these humans to shreds. As the battle raged on, the monster with the bunny face informed their leader that two of their adversaries were from the Mu family, a sworn enemy of their clan. This revelation seemed to ignite the leader's fury even further, and he decided to join the fray personally. With a menacing presence, the leader of the monsters launched a powerful attack, making his grand entrance. He declared that the Mu family was the sworn enemy of the Black Wolf race, and today, he would exact revenge by beheading them and offering their heads to the ancestors who had been slain by the Mu family 2,000 years ago. Mu Shuangai was well aware of this history. 2,000 years ago, her family's ancestors had developed a powerful battle technique that had led to their victory over the wolf race of the Western continent, putting an end to the legend of the undefeated wolf army. Mu Shuangai, with determination in her eyes, declared that today she would defeat the leader of the Black Wolf clan, as hunting these creatures was a mission she was born for. She unleashed the Mu family's glowing dagger technique, displaying her formidable strength. The leader of the Black Wolf clan couldn't help but acknowledge Mu Shuangai's prowess, but he also noticed that Lin Chuan didn't seem to possess the same level of strength. He taunted her, asking if she wanted to witness Lin Chuan's demise. However, Lin Chuan suddenly emerged from the chaos of his own battle, assuring Mu Shuangai that he was fine. He explained that he had been fortunate enough to eliminate one of the monsters. The monsters realized that the intel was wrong, and that other than the two runts from the Mu family, there was one more ant that bites. The leader of the Black Wolf clan was determined to deal with everyone at the guard post, and he particularly had his sights set on Lin Chuan. Lin Chuan, appearing frightened, tried to convince the monster that he wasn't associated with the Mu family and begged him to ignore him. Additionally, Lin Chuan was grappling with the grim reality that he had just taken someone's life for the first time, and it left him feeling terrible. The Black Wolf clan leader had no intention of sparing Lin Chuan. He was hell-bent on dismembering and consuming him. He lunged forward to attack Lin Chuan, who felt like he was facing an unstoppable force. Mu Shuangai warned Lin Chuan not to attempt to block the monster's attack, as the Black Wolf race was known for their immense strength. However, Lin Chuan had no other choice but to gamble for his life. In a desperate move, he used the reflective blade skill to counter the leader's attack. Lin Chuan's smart use of the reflective blade technique allowed him to deflect the monster's attack effectively. Normally, only those significantly stronger than their opponents would employ this technique, often teachers when sparring with their students. The Black Wolf clan leader, recognizing Lin Chuan's quick reflexes, realized that when Lin Chuan missed his attacks, he swiftly retreated, a sign of remarkable reaction speed. This display of skill infuriated the monster, and he berated Lin Chuan for daring to use a reflective blade, implying that Lin Chuan underestimated him. The leader's anger fueled a furious attack on Lin Chuan, who fought back with confidence. The monster couldn't help but notice that, despite his apparent combat strength being below Centroid Force Stage 4, Lin Chuan was able to utilize his full strength and engage in a battle on equal footing. This raised doubts in the monster's mind, suggesting that there might be something unusual about this young boy. The leader of the Black Wolf clan decides to halt the fight, realizing that there was no clear end in sight to their battle. Instead, he calls upon his clan members to join forces and deal with Lin Chuan collectively. Mu Shuangai immediately senses the danger Lin Chuan is in, while Mai Lun is more focused on assessing Lin Chuan's abilities. Mai Lun is deeply impressed by the way Lin Chuan handles the reflective blade technique, considering it nearly flawless. He concludes that unless Lin Chuan's opponent is at least above Centroid Force Stage 9 and possesses overwhelming strength, Lin Chuan should be able to hold his own and not lose. In essence, Mai Lun has a high level of confidence in Lin Chuan's capabilities. Interestingly, Mai Lun seems to have someone in mind who bears a striking resemblance to Lin Chuan. He even entertains the possibility that they might be the same person. Mu Shuangai quickly comprehends that Mai Lun is referring to Plume, the legendary genius who defeated him in the Allied Academy's virtual platform. While Lin Chuan could simply be someone else skilled in using the reflective blade technique, Mai Lun is increasingly convinced that they might be the same person. This realization significantly shakes Mai Lun's self-confidence. Mai Lun recalls his teacher's words about how mastering the reflective blade technique was a rare feat, with only a few individuals achieving it every decade. Although using the technique in the virtual platform was one thing, the current situation was a real-life battle, and any misstep could cost Lin Chuan his life. Mai Lun's teacher had previously expressed confidence in this matter, but now that seemed rather amusing in hindsight. The head of the monsters asks his clan to charge and kill Lin Chuan. Lin Chuan finds himself in a perilous situation as the monsters close in on him. However, in a surprising turn of events, he pretends to lose his balance, creating an opening for the monsters. This is all part of his plan to catch them off guard. When they attack, Lin Chuan retaliates swiftly, showing impressive combat skills. This guy should get an Oscar for his acting skills. He even employs an elite-class weapon, the silence-splitting tooth dagger, which he acquired during his training. Despite the close call and the danger he faced, Lin Chuan manages to defeat the monsters and survive the ordeal. Lin Chuan sighs as it was a terrible day as he nearly died in the guard post. Mu Xuangai and Mai Lun couldn't help but be astounded by Lin Chuan's true strength. After the intense battle, Lin Chuan asks if they are okay, but Mu Xuangai, still in disbelief, responds in an annoyed tone, admitting that they had seriously underestimated him in the past. She taunts him, saying that they really misunderstood him in the past. Mai Lun, on the other hand, expresses his initial suspicion that Lin Chuan might be Plume, but now he's uncertain. He describes Lin Chuan as a battle maniac due to his extraordinary combat skills. Lin Chuan, feeling the weight of the situation, expresses a wish that he were indeed Plume, as that would spare him from hiding in White Arrow Harbor. Suddenly, he loses his balance, but Mai Lun quickly steadies him. Lin Chuan begins with his intense acting skills and thanks them for helping to eliminate the thugs. He informs them that he'll need some time to recover in the hospital and instructs them to handle matters at the training camp. Despite their exasperation with Lin Chuan, Mu Xuangai and Mai Lun decide to go along with him, realizing they owe him a debt of gratitude. Finally, Lin Chuan faints for real. As Lin Chuan suddenly fainted, Mu Xuangai was left bewildered, wondering what his words meant. She attempted to rouse him, but all her efforts proved futile. Meanwhile, Mai Lun realized that Lin Chuan had essentially tasked them with cleaning up the mess he had created, and they had no choice but to do so since they owed him a significant debt. Just then, a Supergirl dressed in red descended from above and landed in the office. She swiftly signaled that enemy recognition was complete, confirmed the target, and activated automatic shooting. It was evident that she was highly skilled at her work, efficiently dispatching the monsters with precision. The officers quickly recognized the newcomer and identified her as a star-rated Centroid equipment user. The team breathed a sigh of relief as their backup had finally arrived, and they knew they were saved. Among the reinforcements, they spotted a high-stage Centroid expert from the Special Guard team, further boosting their confidence. As things began to calm down after the battle, Instructor Cray found a moment to visit Lin Chuan. He remarked on the unusual string of events that had unfolded within half a month of Lin Chuan's arrival in White Arrow Harbor. Lin Chuan replied, noting that he considered himself fortunate to have survived all these unexpected challenges. Instructor Cray playfully patted Lin Chuan on the shoulder, praising him for his adaptability to the events in White Arrow Harbor. Lin Chuan winced at the force of the pat and jokingly asked Instructor Cray not to hit him so hard, as it was painful. Instructor Cray then bid Lin Chuan to rest up, promising that when he returned, there would be plenty of work waiting for him. As Instructor Cray left the hospital ward, he spotted Mu Xuangai heading toward Lin Chuan's room. He winked at her and suggested that she should have a nice, long chat with Lin Chuan. Mu Xuangai was a bit puzzled by the wink but decided to let it slide. When she entered Lin Chuan's room, she couldn't help but be surprised by his appearance, likening him to a dumpling all wrapped up. Lin Chuan, not one to back down, retorted by challenging her to take as many hits as he had. Mu Xuangai playfully accused Lin Chuan of being a drama king, suspecting that he might be exaggerating to gain sympathy. Lin Chuan, clearly annoyed, asked her if she came to the hospital just to make fun of him. However, Mu Xuangai revealed that she had brought a special medicine from the Western continent to help wounds heal quickly. So, this girl indeed has some conscience. She then shifted to a more serious tone, acknowledging the sacrifices made by the guards on duty who lost their lives protecting the guard post. Lin Chuan tried to cheer her up by reminding her that they had managed to survive. He also noted that as a member of the guards and the Mu family's young lady, she would likely face more such incidents in the future. Mu Xiangai expressed her gratitude to Lin Chuan for saving her and promised to mention his heroic actions in the incident report. Lin Chuan, ever the opportunist, suggested that she make the article more tragic and emotional, highlighting how he disregarded his limited strength and took a fatal hit for her. He hoped that this would help him get an outstanding grade on his training records. Mu Xiangai agreed to his request but couldn't resist teasing and scolding him. Lin Chuan reminded her to coordinate her story with what Mai Lun writes to ensure consistency. As Mu Xiangai remained momentarily silent, Lin Chuan couldn't help but wonder if she was contemplating selling him out. However, she quickly silenced him and pointed out that despite his dumpling-like appearance, he still had plenty of energy left. She questioned whether anyone would believe he was heavily injured. Mu Xiangai then handed him a glass of water and advised him to drink it up. She emphasized the importance of resting and letting his injuries heal, urging him to get discharged from the hospital as soon as possible. Meanwhile, the Chamberlain of the Mu family observed the interactions between Lin Chuan and Mu Xiangai. He inquired with Mai Lun if there was something romantic going on between them. Mai Lun clarified that it wasn't what the Chamberlain was thinking. The Chamberlain, however, was now furious. He couldn't believe that Mu Xiangai, who typically didn't even serve tea to the patriarch as a sign of respect, was now personally providing water to Lin Chuan, a commoner. Mai Lun attempted to explain the situation to the Chamberlain, stating that they had been in the same group for half a month, which had naturally brought them closer. He also mentioned that if Lin Chuan hadn't taken a hit for Mu Xiangai during their battle with the Black Wolves, Mai Lun wouldn't have had the opportunity to defeat the monsters. According to Mai Lun, he felt compelled to share the credit for these military achievements, given his family's strong military background. However, the Chamberlain, who was familiar with Mai Lun's tendencies, knew that he was not a good liar. Whenever Mai Lun lied, he tended to blush, and his reaction suggested that there might be something more going on between Mu Xiangai and Lin Chuan. The Chamberlain couldn't help but realize that in just half a month, so much had already transpired. Lady Su was standing next to the Chamberlain, and he implored her to keep the situation a secret. However, Su Duanpo made it clear that she had no interest in gossip. The Chamberlain emphasized that the Mu family must adhere to its traditions and norms. Su Duanpo was taken aback and frankly told the Chamberlain that if she had agreed to enter Xiangai's father's bedroom last year, she would have become Xiangai's stepmother by now. Su Duanpo then moved away, stating that she didn't have time to concern herself with the Mu family's affairs. However, she did express a certain level of interest in Lin Chuan. She pondered that Lin Chuan seemed to be quite fortunate, and she would need to shape him up in the future. Lin Chuan lay in his hospital bed, contemplating recent events. It had only been half a month since he sold the designs for the White Arrow Fish King's special radar to the Ryan family for a substantial sum of 10,000 gold coins. In return, they had also given him the silence-splitting tooth dagger crafted from the Fish King's mouthbone. He pondered whether taking on more commissions and advancing his rank to an intermediate grade repairman would enable him to earn even more money. Interrupting his thoughts, Team Leader Su entered the room. Lin Chuan greeted her and inquired about her presence. Team Leader Su acknowledged Lin Chuan's abilities and skills, but she seemed surprised that he knew who she was. Lin Chuan confidently mentioned that Mu Xiangai had mentioned her and described her as a fan of Team Leader Su's. With that, Team Leader Su abruptly told him to rest up, as she had some business with him once he was discharged. She swiftly exited the room, leaving Lin Chuan to contemplate the sudden attention he seemed to be receiving from various people today. The Chamberlain entered the room and exchanged greetings with Lin Chuan. He then revealed that he had a secret proposition for Lin Chuan and offered him a card loaded with 30,000 gold coins. Lin Chuan couldn't help but wonder if the heavens were showering him with money because they knew he was in dire need of it. He briefly considered the possibility that the Mu family might be secretly compensating him for taking a hit to protect Mu Xiangai. But there was more to the story. The Chamberlain explained that this money was a breakup fee, and it came with a condition. If Lin Chuan agreed to sever his relationship with Mu Xiangai, the money would be his. He emphasized that Lin Chuan needed to grasp the gravity of the situation. The Mu family would never approve of their relationship, and if it were exposed, Lin Chuan's future would be jeopardized. Lin Chuan, still trying to process that this money was tied to a breakup, reacted by eagerly accepting the card and expressing his willingness to discuss this matter with Mu Xiangai. He reassured the Chamberlain that he understood they had no future together and, given the Chamberlain's sincere request, he couldn't refuse. Lin Chuan even pledged to keep a significant distance from Mu Xiangai after their training camp ended. The Chamberlain was taken aback by how easily Lin Chuan had agreed to these terms. He couldn't help but feel that things were unfolding differently from his expectations, and he hadn't even taken any action yet. The Chamberlain remained in deep shock, unable to fathom how easily Lin Chuan had agreed to the deal. He couldn't help but think that plots like these usually didn't unfold so smoothly. He realized that he hadn't even taken any action yet, and Lin Chuan had already complied. However, Lin Chuan wasn't finished. He slyly suggested to the Chamberlain that he could reveal the existence of the gold card to Mu Xuanai, exposing the Chamberlain's intentions and making him look like a scoundrel. Lin Chuan was unwilling to let the money slip through his fingers, and he was ready to use this newfound information to his advantage. Lin Chuan then proposed an alternative plan. He could withdraw Mu Xuanai from the training camp early and take her home, avoiding any further complications. The Chamberlain sternly advised Lin Chuan to act normally and cease his interactions with Mu Xuanai after the training camp concluded. He warned Lin Chuan that if the deal were to be broken, he wouldn't be as lenient next time. To reassure the Chamberlain of his commitment to the agreement, Lin Chuan even suggested that they formalize it with a written contract. The Chamberlain looked at the seemingly innocent Lin Chuan and found his words convincing. He left the room, and Lin Chuan bid him farewell with a cheerful take care. With the money secured, Lin Chuan contemplated his options. He pondered whether to enjoy the funds, invest in repairman rank advancement classes, or even consider purchasing a star-rated Centroid equipment. Lin Chuan's eyes gleamed with greed as he contemplated how to spend the money, but his plans were quickly interrupted by the furious arrival of Mu Xuanai. She stormed into the room, her anger palpable. Having heard about Lin Chuan accepting the money as a breakup fee, she confronted Lin Chuan, her voice dripping with irritation, and demanded to know when they had even started dating. Lin Chuan, trying to maintain his composure, calmly responded that he didn't know, but he had accepted the money because it felt like a gift from the heavens. Mu Xuanai, however, was beyond furious. She yanked one of the plaster strips from Lin Chuan's body, clearly agitated, and insisted that they should go immediately to explain the situation to the Chamberlain. But Lin Chuan was unwilling to part with the money. He covered his ears, feigning deafness, and told Mu Xuanai that he couldn't hear her, reminding her that he was a patient and she should refrain from disturbing him. Lin Chuan, after the recent turmoil and drama, found himself back on the training ground. He was intrigued by a technique created by a legendary madman who lived 2,000 years ago, Cromwell. This man had been an unparalleled expert in his generation, and if Lin Chuan could master his technique, it could propel him past Centroid Force Stage 4. However, there was a significant drawback to this technique. It only contained formulas for the early stages of Centroid Force. Lin Chuan weighed his options carefully. Learning Cromwell's technique would undoubtedly provide a substantial boost in power, but it came at the cost of being locked into those early stages for a more extended period. Given his current state and the recent events, Lin Chuan ultimately decided that it was wiser to focus on learning the Sentry's Wind technique, which would at least give him the strength to protect himself. With his decision made, Lin Chuan embarked on the path of mastering the Sentry's Wind technique, fully aware of the challenges and rewards it would bring. Lin Chuan was determined to begin learning the Sentry's Wind technique. He started by gauging the initial difficulty of the technique, assessing what he was getting himself into. Sitting down in a meditative posture, he focused all his attention on the task at hand. Surprisingly, after a relatively short period of time, Lin Chuan opened his eyes. It appeared that he had already made substantial progress in mastering the initial steps of the Sentry's Wind technique. Lin Chuan couldn't help but wonder if his rapid progress in learning the Sentry's Wind technique had something to do with that mysterious stone ball he had found. It remained a puzzling enigma to him, as he had never had the chance to thoroughly examine it. However, he was determined that once he became strong enough to protect himself, he would investigate the true nature of that mysterious object. Thinking of ways to expedite his training, Lin Chuan considered using a special use medicine. He realized that by applying such a medicine while cultivating the Sentry's Wind technique, he could boost his training speed by 20 to 30%. However, there was a significant downside: the cost. Each bottle of the heart-condensing medicine was a whopping 200 gold coins, and he would need to use up a bottle every 3 days. Even with the lowest efficiency estimate, it would cost him a total of 36,000 gold coins to reach Centroid Force Stage 4 in a year and a half. Lin Chuan couldn't help but feel a sense of frustration as he contemplated the immense cost of the heart-condensing medicine needed to accelerate his training. He thought about the legendary figure, Cromwell, the continent's madman, who had likely used such medicines liberally during his time. Lin Chuan sighed, wondering why everything in his path seemed to come with such high costs, and challenges. It was as if the world itself was conspiring to test his determination and resolve. The following day at the training grounds in Centroid City, Lin Chuan was prepared to continue his rigorous training sessions. He calculated that in about 6 months, he might have a chance to break the 1,000-year-old record for the fastest progression from Centroid Force Stage 4 to becoming a Centroid expert. However, this achievement came at a steep price, consuming one costly bottle of heart-condensing medicine daily. Lin Chuan couldn't help but feel the weight of this financial burden, realizing he would need to adopt a more frugal lifestyle. Determined to ease the strain on his finances, he decided to see if there were any discounts or deals available for heart-condensing medicine. Every damn thing was just about money, money and money. Just then, a voice called out to Lin Chuan, prompting him to turn around and see who it was. It turned out to be a young boy who greeted Lin Chuan and inquired about his well-being. However, Lin Chuan didn't respond because he couldn't recall ever meeting this individual before. The young boy then approached Lin Chuan and asked if he was Plume, seeking confirmation. At this point, Lin Chuan's patience had worn thin, and he decided it was best to walk away. He apologized to the boy and stated that he had mistaken him for someone else. Undeterred, the boy firmly grabbed Lin Chuan's shoulder, attempting to prevent him from leaving, insisting that he recognized him and that Lin Chuan was indeed Plume. The boy attempted to reassure Lin Chuan, stating that he had no intention of revealing Lin Chuan's identity as Plume to anyone. Then, he mentioned that he had a favor to ask of Lin Chuan, causing Lin Chuan to regard him with suspicion. In a private room at the Centroid City Exchange Center, room number 303, Lin Chuan rested on a couch while the boy occupied a chair nearby. Lin Chuan was patiently waiting for the boy to commence the most awaited performance and get to the point. The boy, with a smile, asked Lin Chuan why he wouldn't admit that he was Plume and assured him that it would remain a secret. However, Lin Chuan remained unconvinced. No matter what the boy said, he was certain that he wasn't Plume at this very moment. Lin Chuan urged the boy to be direct about whatever help he needed. If it was within Lin Chuan's capabilities, they could discuss a reasonable price for his assistance. The boy continued to press Lin Chuan, asking why he was being so heartless. He mentioned that they were teammates on the same team back then and that Lin Chuan had told him they could rely on each other. Lin Chuan was struggling to recall if he had been on the same team with this guy during his school days, but his memory failed him, and he didn't want to dwell on it for too long. Growing increasingly irritated, Lin Chuan sternly told the boy that if he had something to say, he should get to the point quickly, or else he was ready to leave. The boy finally dropped the pretense and got straight to business. He explained that the Great Xingao Empire's elite training camp had suddenly raised its admission standards a few days ago for some damn reason, which would adversely affect the reputation of large families like his own. Lin Chuan's heart sank upon hearing this news. The Empire's elite training camp was the one he had given up on, and now it seemed like he might have missed out on a massive opportunity. He couldn't help but feel heartbroken. He pressed the boy for more information, asking why they suddenly raised the admission standards if they had already decided to accept a large number of students. The boy explained that the decision to admit a lot of students had caused a commotion among the 3 major departments. Apparently, a legendary genius who was supposed to report to the camp had not shown up, and this had upset the higher-ups. As a result, they had decided to eliminate a portion of the accepted graduates, creating uncertainty for students like the boy who had originally been accepted but might now be at risk of losing their spots. Oh, so the boy was saying that he was originally taken in but he might be licked out because of all this. Lin Chuan clearly mentioned how unlucky this boy was. The boy was clearly frustrated and explained to Lin Chuan that the raised entry standards were related to mastering the basic gun skill, burst multi-shot. He emphasized that even among high-stage Centroid experts, very few had reached the master level in this skill. He questioned whether the training camp was intentionally trying to eliminate a significant number of students. The boy then acknowledged his luck in finding someone as strong as Plume, emphasizing that Plume was now his best hope to meet the new standards and secure his spot in the training camp. Lin Chuan expresses his frustration at the training camp for rejecting a talented individual like the boy in front of him. However, the boy quickly intervenes, mentioning that he remembers Lin Chuan's rules and is willing to pay him half of the fee as a deposit. He proceeds to send the deposit right away. Lin Chuan is still unsure if he can help the boy with this situation. However, just then, he receives a notification that he has received a transfer of 5,000 damn gold coins from Jing Qijing, which surprises him. Lin Chuan, with a gleam of happiness and greed in his eyes, gladly accepts the transfer from Jing Qijing. He then reassures Jing Qijing that, even though he isn't Plume, he can certainly help him. Jing Qijing expresses his gratitude and still regards Lin Chuan as Plume. The next day, Lin Chuan is discharged from the hospital and walks out in high spirits. He thinks about Jing Qijing and how he no longer needs to worry about money, thanks to the generous payment he received for sharing some tips. Lin Chuan decides to celebrate and have a great day. Just then, he spots the Empire's suspension force car, the Beast model, which is every man's dream car. The car then opens up, and Mu Xiuangai calls out to Lin Chuan, inviting him to come aboard. Lin Chuan is thrilled as he gets to ride in his dream car today. Once inside, team leader Su tells Lin Chuan that he appears to be in good shape, and they're heading straight to work. Team leader Su instructs him to buckle up, and the car takes off. Lin Chuan's cries of protest can be heard as he's dragged back to work the moment he's discharged from the hospital. Lin Chuan continues to question team leader Su about their destination. Mu Xiuangai answers instead and informs Lin Chuan that they are going to the red light district in the north. She even teases him by asking if he's scared. Lin Chuan, though surprised, tells her that he's heard that the red light district has been raided several times recently, so there's nothing to fear. However, he still can't understand why they are dragging a recently discharged patient out to work. The team finally arrives at the red light district, and Lin Chuan is amazed by the sheer size of the nightclub they're visiting. The security guard is annoyed when he sees them and makes it clear that a guard team is not welcome there. Team leader Su takes matters into her own hands and kicks the security guard in the face, ordering him to leave. She insists on speaking to the nightclub's manager. Inside the club, Mu Xiuangai stands by Lin Chuan, and he immediately senses an odd atmosphere in the place. The security guards start yelling at team leader Su for breaking their rules and entering the club uninvited. They try to make her understand that such actions could harm the reputation of the canine people in White Arrow Harbor. Su Duanpo suggests that they shouldn't waste time and instead call for their superior. She decides to wait for the manager inside and boldly states that her patience is limited. As they wait for the manager, Lin Chuan asks Mu Xiuangai if she knows what this large operation is all about. Mu Xiuangai explains that she heard Sister Su had uncovered new evidence suggesting the canine people's involvement in the attack on the guard post. Mu Xiuangai questions Su Duanpo if she intends to eliminate the canine people's base. Sister Su responds, stating that it depends on whether the canine people cooperate by turning over those who are involved as parasites. Just as they discuss this, the door to the room creaks open, and the manager of the club steps out to greet team leader Su. He wonders why she didn't simply contact him instead of making such a grand entrance. Su Duanpo, being quite reserved, decides to present the manager with the evidence directly. She shows him the footage of one of the canine people secretly meeting with the Black Wolf and handing over a box with the Flesh Factory logo, which contains flesh bombs. Mai Lun is shocked and confirms that it was indeed the Black Wolf handing over the box. The manager immediately identifies the person as Burn and labels him a traitor. He orders his guards to bring Burn in, insisting that they capture the traitor alive. Su Duanpo offers to interrogate Burn, and she promises to stop investigating the manager if it turns out he has no involvement in this. The manager is clearly embarrassed by the situation and assures team leader Su that he will take responsibility for all of this and provide adequate compensation to the guard post. Su Duanpo responds by stating that the canine people of the eastern continent have never had conflicts with humans, and she won't use this incident as an excuse to attack them. Suddenly, Burn emerges, shouting insults at everyone and calling them dogs who lick the shoes of humans. He confronts the guard team and taunts them before opening fire. Chaos erupts in the nightclub as people scramble to save their lives. To make matters worse, more disguised monsters join Burn in the attack, intensifying the violence. Team leader Su quickly directs the team to put on the provided detoxifying masks, as the nightclub's atmosphere is now filled with the Flesh Factory's biochemical poison. She orders them to assist others at the entrance and to restrain anyone who appears suspicious. Su Duanpo takes charge of managing the situation inside the club. Outside, the situation is becoming increasingly chaotic as people scramble to escape the danger. Officers are patiently guiding them to safety. An officer calls out to Lin Chuan and asks him to come over. Lin Chuan suddenly panics as he feels an intense heat on his forehead and wonders if he's in danger. From a distance, he observes an officer stopping a peculiar-looking woman and requesting her identification. Lin Chuan takes a keen look at her and damn, he recognizes her as a blood elf. The blood elf reveals its true form and emanates a powerful aura. Panic spreads among the people, and they start fleeing in fear, now faced with not only the chaos but also the presence of a blood elf. The high-pitched sound produced by the blood elf causes them to cover their ears. Lin Chuan recognizes the blood elf's ability to use sound as a weapon, a formidable innate power. it becomes clear that the Blood Elf has a specific target in mind, and it's headed straight for Officer Zhu Hua. Zhu Hua realizes the danger but is paralyzed in place. Lin Chuan takes swift action to protect Officer Hua, leaping into the fray and delivering a powerful kick to the charging Blood Elf despite its formidable force. The Blood Elf lands gracefully on the ground and is now more determined than ever to make Lin Chuan its prey. It charges toward Lin Chuan, who begins to panic. He urgently calls out to Officer Zhu Hua for assistance, urging him to draw his gun and shoot. However, to Lin Chuan's dismay, Officer Hua lies unconscious on the ground, terrified by the situation. The Blood Elf's shrieks grow even louder, and it seems like a critical moment for Lin Chuan, so he decides to use the silence-splitting tooth dagger. Just in the nick of time, Team Leader Su arrives to rescue him, potentially turning the tide of this dangerous encounter. Lin Chuan knew he was now in safe hands, and he just had to endure a little longer. Both Lin Chuan and Zhu Hua were propelled away, falling some distance apart. Team Leader Su leaped at the Blood Elf, delivering a powerful punch to its face, causing it to collapse on the ground. She instructed the other officers to apprehend the Blood Elf. However, Lin Chuan was in pain, realizing that his right arm was injured, possibly broken, and he couldn't move it. He wondered if he would have to return to the hospital on the very day he was discharged. As Zhu Hua regained consciousness, he immediately yelled at Lin Chuan, questioning their current position and what Lin Chuan had done to him. Lin Chuan, a bit bewildered, asked Zhu Hua to get up first and wondered why Zhu Hua was accusing him of anything. Zhu Hua replied by warning Lin Chuan to be cautious, implying that he needed to watch his actions. Mai Lun and Mu Xuangai rushed to their aid, with Zhu Hua urgently calling for assistance from his juniors. Mai Lun helped Zhu Hua while he struggled with vomiting. Mu Xuangai assisted Lin Chuan, who cautioned her to be gentle as his right hand was broken. Team Leader Su announced that those who weren't injured should attend to the wounded. Lin Chuan took a moment to tell Mu Xuangai that after the hit from the Blood Elf, his centroid force had suddenly broken through to stage 5. Meanwhile, Officer Hua was still grappling with nausea and throwing up continuously. Mu Xuangai had had enough of Lin Chuan's antics, and she let go of his hand, causing him to fall. She expressed her frustration and suggested to Mai Lun that they should leave Lin Chuan to his fate. Zhu Hua was puzzled by Mu Xuangai's words, while other officers were busy dealing with boxes from the flesh factory, which were disturbing and terrifying. The guard team began moving, and Mu Xuangai asked Lin Chuan if he could teach Mai Lun the perfect reflective blade technique. Lin Chuan agreed happily, with one condition: they should pretend the training fee was included in the breakup fee. Mu Xuangai gets mad instantly as this guy still had the audacity to bring up that breakup fee. Lin Chuan and Mu Xuangai continued their playful argument, with Lin Chuan insisting that he would include the hospital fees in the breakup fee because Mu Xuangai had just been sitting on the sidelines during the fight with the Blood Elf. Mu Xuangai's frustration grew even more, and the two of them bantered back and forth in their usual manner. Later in the evening at the White Arrow Harbor Guard Post, Team Leader Su gathered her team and delivered the good news that the Canine Man had confessed. She then generously offered to treat them all to dinner, allowing them to order whatever they pleased. The team expressed their gratitude for her kind gesture. However, Team Leader Su turned her gaze towards Lin Chuan, making him feel a bit uneasy. Nervously, he asked her why she was looking at him like that. Team Leader Su scolded him for his lack of self-awareness, reminding him that he was a newbie. She assigned him the task of running errands, questioning if he expected her to do it herself. Lin Chuan couldn't help but feel annoyed, wondering why Mu Xuangai and Mai Lun weren't given any tasks when they were newcomers too. Team Leader Su continued with her announcements, revealing that all members of the guard post would have the opportunity to take a vacation on York Island Sea. She emphasized that this vacation wouldn't deduct from their leave days, and they could even bring their families along. Lin Chuan worked while listening to his colleagues' joyful chatter about this news. However, Team Leader Su wasn't done yet. She finished her supper and then summoned Mu Xuangai, Mai Lun, and Lin Chuan to her office. The three of them were curious about the reason for this meeting. Team Leader Su then disclosed her plan to form an investigation unit with them, hinting that they should be prepared for the nature of the investigation they were about to undertake, although she didn't reveal the specifics at that moment. Mu Xuangai appeared slightly puzzled by the announcement, prompting Team Leader Su to call her attention. Mu Xuangai quickly masked her confusion and offered Team Leader Su a cup of cappuccino. Team leader Su proceeded to explain that the captured blood elf had died, and she planned to divert attention by focusing on the Flesh Factory case while secretly investigating the unsolved White Arrow Harbor case. Lin Chuan recalled the gruesome scene and assessed the situation. Team leader Su intended to dig deep into the unsolved case, and if Mu Xiong'ai and Maya Lun could participate in the investigation, it could be advantageous for them in the future. However, Lin Chuan found this plan to be too perilous, and he couldn't understand why he was being dragged into it. Team leader Su continued by expressing her desire to achieve a breakthrough in the case, although she didn't have high expectations because previous investigations had also yielded no results. The team proceeded to the White Arrow Harbor Guard Post archives, and on the way, team leader Su explained the reason behind the Black Wolf's attack on the guard post. She revealed that the attack was related to the contents of the room they were about to enter. Once inside, she clarified that the higher-ups were pleased with their successful resolution of the important Flesh Factory weapons case. As a result, they had granted her the authority to form an investigation unit to re-examine the legendary tragedy that had taken place in the past. Team leader Su went on to mention that she was certain they had all heard something about the tragedy, but the exact details were top secret. She sternly warned them that leaking any of this confidential information after viewing the documents would result in severe punishment for compromising the country's secrets. Team leader Su made it clear that they needed to fully understand the gravity of this before proceeding. Now that Lin Chuan understood the gravity of the situation, he declared that he didn't want to know anything more and asked team leader Su if it would be acceptable for him not to be part of this investigation unit. Maya Lun and Mu Xiong'ai both gave him a skeptical look. However, team leader Su had a wicked trick up her sleeve. She flung a document toward Lin Chuan, which landed right in his hands, and his eyes naturally fell upon the document, indicating that he had already seen its contents. With Lin Chuan having seen the documents, team leader Su asked him if he still wanted to leave and advised him to think it through. Lin Chuan cries in disappointment and told the leader not to put him in such a situation. Finally, Maya Lun and Mu Xiong'ai felt satisfied with his decision. Team leader Su then informed Lin Chuan that the documents in the room were summaries of the case and asked him to find clues within them that night. Lin Chuan asked if he had to stay there and read the documents, to which team leader Su replied in the affirmative. She explained that it was of utmost importance to prevent the documents from leaking, and she warned Lin Chuan once more, emphasizing that leaking information would lead to a visit to the secret investigator's office for tea, even if she were to forgive him. Lin Chuan was thoroughly frightened and swore that he would never leak any information. After this exchange, team leader Su, Mu Xiong'ai, and Maya Lun began to leave the room. Lin Chuan sensed prejudice in the atmosphere and asked team leader Su why Maya Lun and Mu Xiong'ai weren't staying with him to read the documents. Mu Xiong'ai explained to Lin Chuan that this case involved an important token of the Mu family, and as a result, they had known the details for a long time. Since Lin Chuan was the only one unaware of what happened, it fell to him to read the documents. Lin Chuan reluctantly decided to go along with it, and as he skimmed through the documents, he began to understand the gravity of the secrets they contained. Team leader Su asked Lin Chuan if he now understood why it was a top secret matter, and he assured her that he would never leak even half a word. As they were leaving, team leader Su reminded Lin Chuan about the security cameras and instructed him to delete the footage when he left. Lin Chuan couldn't help but wonder if he was being scammed. Before they departed, Lin Chuan made a request to team leader Su. She asked him to speak, and Lin Chuan innocently asked if he could make a cup of tea and enjoy it while he read the documents. The next day at the guard post's main building, Lin Chuan was caught yawning and taking a nap at his desk. Mu Xiong'ai stormed into the office and was instantly disappointed. She slammed a bag on the table to wake him up and scolded him for slacking off and napping when he was supposed to be reading those important documents from the archives. She even regretted bringing him breakfast. Mu Xiong'ai threatened to report his behavior to team leader Su, and Lin Chuan, realizing he was in trouble, quickly opened the breakfast bag and tried to explain. He told Mu Xiong'ai that he had spent the entire night in the archives and hadn't closed his eyes once. Mu Xiong'ai remained suspicious, so Lin Chuan decided to show her what he had read to prove his dedication. Lin Chuan informs Mu Xiong'ai that he couldn't have imagined that the first mayor of White Arrow Harbor, Wellington, was a blood elf. He continues to explain that this scoundrel had caused trouble in the Holy Federation countries and the Frost Blood Kingdom. Lin Chuan also learned that many noblewomen had been manipulated by him, including some from the Xingao Empire. Mu Xiong'ai was pleased that Lin Chuan was now aware of this crucial information, and she even helped herself to some of his breakfast, which Lin Chuan took note of. Mu Xiong'ai then goes on to explain that many symbolic tokens of Xingao Empire's nobility were stolen, including the Mu family's token. She gets serious and asks Lin Chuan for his thoughts on the matter now that he had finished reading the documents. Lin Chuan, slightly irritated, requests that she let him finish his meal first. Mu Xuangai becomes frustrated with Lin Chuan's focus on food and scolds him for being so food-oriented. Lin Chuan, in response, explains that the original seal representing the Mu family patriarch's authority was lost, and it had been personally signed by His Majesty, the 7th Emperor of the Xingao Empire. Mu Xuangai expresses the Mu family's desire to recover it and mentions that if Lin Chuan helped in the search, it might earn the Mu family's approval for their relationship and they can be together. However, Lin Chuan, being an elite idiot, fails to understand her message, leaving Mu Xuangai blushing as she changes the subject. She voices her concern about the statue of Wellington not looking as handsome as expected and instead resembling an awkward uncle. Well, it was obvious that it was a scandal. After all, Wellington's statue wouldn't make anything clear. Here, Mai Lun watches both of them from a distance. In the White Arrow Harbor residential area, the family was going about their morning routine. The father advised his daughter, Beulah, to eat more slowly, reminding her that the school bus would be arriving in half an hour, and she might choke if she continued to eat so quickly. As the clock struck 8, an unexpected change occurred in the room. Beulah was puzzled by the sudden shift when a voice confirmed that the results were now visible to the naked eye. Just then, the school bus arrived and honked its horn twice. However, a blood elf named Lady Chamora intervened. She instructed the father to inform the school bus driver that the little girl had overslept and that she would personally take her to school later. Under the influence of the blood elf, the father complied with her orders. The individual accompanying Lady Chamora marveled at the hidden blood successors created through Wellington's method. They were impressed by how these individuals could seamlessly transition between being regular people and blood successors. It was indeed a remarkable invention, but it was unfortunate that the method was incomplete. If it had been perfected, the Blood Elves could have rapidly expanded their influence throughout the Xingao Empire. However, Lady Chamora was instantly annoyed and didn't want anyone to mention that traitor's name in her presence. She expressed frustration that if Wellington had initially shared the complete method, the Blood Elves could have launched their offensive across the eastern continent much earlier. They wouldn't have had to remain hidden in White Arrow Harbor, concealing their true identities for over 40 years. But it was time to focus on the task at hand. Lady Chamora seized the young girl, Beulah, and ruthlessly bit her, beginning to feed on her blood until the girl displayed the desired evil qualities. Lady Chamora was busy feasting on the little kid. The person who stood beside Lady Chamora urged her to stop, warning that if she continued to drink more of Beulah's blood, the young girl would fully transform into a true blood successor. Lady Chamora released Beulah immediately, and the little girl fell to the floor. Frustrated and angered, Lady Chamora blamed Wellington for their current predicament. She lamented not being able to find his complete method and expressed her strong desire to ensure that no one else could even think about it. She declared that she was different from the foolish guardians who had come before them, and she longed to leave White Arrow Harbor, which she referred to as a damned place. The man, referred to as Professor F, finally comes into picture, and he questioned Lady Chamora about her tendency to choose humans with exceptional looks to become blood successors. Lady Chamora justified her choice by comparing it to food, stating that even if something is delicious, if it looks unappetizing, it can reduce one's desire to consume it. Professor F then got to the point and requested a 50% increase in the price for the transaction that Lady Chamora had proposed earlier. He explained that this increase was necessary due to the added risk he was taking. Lady Chamora was surprised by this request and wondered if Professor F was taking advantage of the situation to raise the price. However, Professor F clarified that their organization always upheld its commitments, and the 50% increase was compensation for the risk involved. Professor F accused Lady Chamora of immorality for not disclosing that he would have to take the blame for the transaction and claimed that she had deliberately hidden this fact. Lady Chamora defended herself, saying that she had not hidden the price intentionally and believed that the price she had set was already fair. She also sarcastically suggested that increasing the price by another 50% wouldn't be appropriate. Professor F seemed to enjoy the argument and proposed a deal. He offered to reduce the price if Lady Chamora could answer his next question. He inquired about a recent incident where a Guardian airship in Nanliu district was shot down 1 month ago. He wanted to know if this was the work of the Blood Elves and the whereabouts of the items that were on the Guardian airship. Lady Chamora clarified that the incident with the Guardian airship in Nanliu district wasn't the work of the Blood Elves. Instead, it was due to an internal struggle within the Xingao Empire's imperial family. She explained that the Empire's own actions had caused the incident, but they had blamed the Blood Elves for it. In a secretive and curious tone, Lady Chamora gets close to Professor F and asked him about the items on the Guardian airship that had piqued his interest. She wondered if there was something on the airship that even someone of his organization's status couldn't obtain. Professor F merely smirked and cryptically mentioned that some things couldn't be obtained, even with a strong desire. After Professor F left, Lady Chamora reflected on the encounter and concluded that a genius mechanic like Professor F was far more dangerous than high-stage Centroid experts. Lady Chamora became furious at the thought of dealing with a peculiar mechanic like Professor F. She expressed her frustration, mentioning that if she didn't have something to request from the Flesh Factory, she would never have considered making a deal with such an odd individual. A man standing behind her asked Lady Chamora if they should proceed with their plan. She agreed with him, stating that he was right. With the deal with the Flesh Factory in place, they could prepare to carry out their plan sooner. The man smiled and thanked Lady Chamora, and then ominously declared their intent to bathe White Arrow Harbor in blood. Team leader Su was driving her car, exuding an air of confidence. Mu Shuang'ai sat next to her in the front, while in the back seat, Mai Lun and Lin Chuan were comfortably seated. Lin Chuan's mind was racing with various thoughts. He couldn't shake the strange searing pain he felt when passing the residential area earlier. It was a sensation he had never experienced before. Even during the attack on the guard post, he didn't feel this level of panic. Lin Chuan marked the location on his mental map with a red circle, deciding to avoid it in the future. As they continued their journey, a notification came in. Lin Chuan reminded himself that today was meant for vacation, and he would set aside his worries for now. He eagerly anticipated the sun, the beach, and the bikini-clad beauties. He decided to focus on enjoying his vacation first and deal with other matters later. Mu Shuang'ai decided to check the notification and was surprised by the breaking news from Xingao. She turned back and announced that it was about Jing Qijing, the famous Plume fanboy. He had displayed 5 bursts of burst multishot in the Empire's elite training camp entrance exams, and he had reached an accomplished level of proficiency. Mai Lun was shocked by this revelation, finding it hard to believe that Jing Qijing had achieved such a high level of proficiency in burst multishot. He marveled at the Jing family's ability to produce such remarkable geniuses and wondered if they might even produce a gunman of godly destruction level. Lin Chuan, pretending to be unaware, chimed in, praising Jing Qijing's incredible achievement. Lin Chuan vividly recalled how grateful Jing Qijing had been and how he had thanked him profusely for his guidance, crediting Lin Chuan for helping him gain admission to the elite training camp. Jing Qijing had mentioned a surprise he had prepared and encouraged Lin Chuan to take a look at the attachments. When Lin Chuan finally checked them, he couldn't contain his excitement. There were 3 attachments, one from the Jing family, one from the military, and one from the police department. Each of them offered to purchase the usage rights to Lin Chuan's training method for burst multishot, and the price quoted was a whopping 50,000 gold coins per year. At that very moment, Lin Chuan realized that he was about to become incredibly wealthy. Now that Lin Chuan was on the verge of getting rich, his greed grew stronger. He couldn't help but wonder if Jing Qijing had packaged and resold his training methods. After all, more money was always better. Mu Shuang'ai began to analyze the situation and asked Lin Chuan about Plume's strength level. Lin Chuan paused to consider before responding. He explained that it wasn't possible for someone of his abilities to accurately evaluate a legendary genius like Plume. However, he did mention that Plume had broken through to Centroid Force Stage 9 and become a Centroid expert by the time he was in his 2nd year. This revelation surprised Mai Lun and Mu Shuang'ai. They discussed the situation and concluded that at that time, Plume should have been, at most, 16 years old. Team leader Su chimed in, warning Mu Shuang'ai to sit properly as she seemed too engrossed in their conversation. In the midst of their discussion, Mai Lun seemed lost in his own world. Regardless of anything else, his primary goal was to break through to Centroid Force Stage 9 and challenge Plume again. However, team leader Su intervened, expressing doubt that Mai Lun's wish would ever come true, suggesting that Plume might already be dead. She clarified that while this was speculation, it was based on supporting facts, and she requested them not to spread this information. Su Duanpo explained her reasoning by pointing out that Plume hadn't attended the Empire's elite training camp, and there had been no news or contact from him whatsoever. Plume had simply disappeared, and she wondered if he might have been assassinated by agents from another empire, as no one wanted a repeat of what happened with Professor F. The conversation continued, with Mu Shuang'ai providing more information about Professor F. She explained that not only did he fall into self-depreciation and join the Flesh Factory, but he also became the leader of the Flesh Factory's 3rd group. Mu Xiangai had also heard that one of the other geniuses from their time had died due to an accident. Lin Chuan was curious about what had happened to the last genius, as this was news to him. However, Mu Xiangai didn't have the exact details, and it seemed that the whereabouts of the third genius had been hidden. Lin Chuan found this situation mysterious but decided that the most important thing at the moment was to enjoy their vacation. The vacation was on the beach, full of beauties and colorful bikinis. What else could a guy ask for? Lin Chuan was busy admiring the beautiful women on the beach when Su Duanpo called him to join a game of volleyball. Mai Lun wanted to continue his exercise, so he encouraged Lin Chuan to go first. Without hesitation, Lin Chuan seized the opportunity to enjoy his vacation fully. While he was reveling in the beach scene, Lin Chuan received a video call from Jing Qijing, who excitedly shared that he had just completed the training camp with a high evaluation. He proudly showed off his new equipment and revealed that he had advanced 2 stages in one go, leaving everyone amazed. Lin Chuan praised him enthusiastically, and he also informed him that he got to go. But then Mu Xiangai approached Lin Chuan and she inquired about the person he was talking to. Jing Qijing noticed that Lin Chuan was surrounded by hot women on the beach and comically scolded him for breaking their promise of staying single together. Mu Xiangai was bewildered by the conversation, and Jing Qijing amusingly asked her if she had any friends like her to introduce to him. He then introduced himself as Lin Chuan's best friend. Lin Chuan was exasperated with Jing Qijing's antics, so he ended the call. Mu Xiangai asked about the caller, but Lin Chuan casually brushed it off, claiming it was a wrong number. He was determined to get back to enjoying his vacation with the sea, sun, and beach, as well as the attention from women inviting him to play volleyball. This was what a vacation should be like. However, his vacation was short-lived as team leader Su approached Lin Chuan, informing him that his free time was over and it was time to work. Lin Chuan protested, but his objections fell on deaf ears. Team leader Su explained that they were on an island where Wellington used to live, and their purpose was to inspect Wellington's old house. Lin Chuan felt like he had been tricked into work and reluctantly followed team leader Su. The vacation he was promised disappeared just like that. Wellington was known for his cunning, and Lin Chuan suggested that he might have brought along all his treasures when he left. However, team leader Su disagreed, stating that Lin Chuan was underestimating Wellington's abilities. She explained that the Blood Elves possessed special concealment techniques, and Wellington's skills were unparalleled. In his diary, Wellington had mentioned hiding treasures in the most obvious place in White Arrow Harbor, yet nothing had been found. As they entered the house, Lin Chuan was struck by its appearance and admired the various works of art that adorned the walls. His attention was drawn to a particular gold flower, and he couldn't shake the feeling that something was amiss with one of its petals. Lin Chuan had a hunch that the Blood Elves lived off fresh blood, so objects they frequently used might be stained with crimson blood energy. He picked up the petal and examined it, and to his surprise, he found something unusual. Team leader Su misunderstood Lin Chuan's intentions, thinking he was staring at her chest, and she teased him. However, Lin Chuan urged her to take a closer look, and when she did, she was shocked to see a collection of women's images on the petal. All of them were Wellington's lovers. Team leader Su immediately asked Lin Chuan how he discovered this, and he tried to downplay it, claiming he was simply curious about the petal's transparency. Deep down, Lin Chuan worried that team leader Su might become suspicious of him, which was quite scary. Su Duanpo still had her doubts about how Lin Chuan managed to find such a significant clue. Simultaneously, she was also impressed by his discovery. She questioned Lin Chuan about why no one had noticed this for all these years, and only he did. Lin Chuan was extremely nervous, and he came up with some bizarre excuses, stating that he simply liked the craftsmanship of the golden petal and found it soft to the touch. He added that he had better eyes and was naturally curious. Standing before the same wall, team leader Su re-examined it, and then turned to Lin Chuan, suggesting that he was implying that the previous surveyors who had been here were a bunch of incompetent individuals who couldn't see anything wrong with such a large wall or floral decoration. Su Duanpo's piercing gaze returned to Lin Chuan as she questioned whether that was what he meant. Lin Chuan finally realized just how intimidating this woman could be, and he couldn't help but think of his mother, wishing he could go home. Lin Chuan decided to play it safe and complimented team leader Su, saying that she was wise and brilliant as they found something significant right away. Su Duanpo couldn't help but smile, fully aware of what Lin Chuan was trying to do. She eventually decided to let him off the hook, appreciating his smooth talking. She gestured for Lin Chuan to move on, and if this discovery helped progress the investigation, she promised to credit him as the main contributor in the report. However, before he could fully process the situation, Su Duanpo dropped another bombshell. They needed to return to White Arrow Harbor to search another building. Lin Chuan was taken aback and disappointed that his vacation plans were being disrupted. But Su Duanpo had a tempting offer, an entire month of paid vacation and double his current pay if they could crack this case. That was an offer too good to refuse, and Lin Chuan reluctantly agreed to get back to work. The next day, in the director's office at the White Arrow Harbor Guard Post, team leader Su appeared visibly frustrated as she emphatically banged her hand on the table. Her frustration was palpable, and Mu Xiuangai offered her some water while asking what had happened and who had made her so angry. Su Duanpo proceeded to inform them that the previous day, they had located the address of the building that used to be Wellington's mansion. However, the owner of that building had adamantly refused to grant the special guard team permission to search it. She went on to explain that the owner had provided documents proving that, over the years, whenever the special guard team conducted searches of the building, valuable items would mysteriously vanish. These weren't treasures left behind by Wellington but instead belonged to the owner's family. Even Mu Xiuangai recognized the name Donald Benson as a powerful figure in Liar Country. This name triggered recognition in Lin Chuan's memory, and team leader Su asked him if he knew the owner. Lin Chuan confirmed that he had received a dagger from the Ryan family after helping them, and if he remembered correctly, the one who had given it to him back then was Donald Benson. Without further delay, the team arrived at the building, and the owner, Donald Benson, welcomed them. Mu Xiuangai expressed her gratitude as he had agreed to allow them to explore the mansion. Donald assured them that they were free to search and if they found anything, they could take it. He also mentioned that if they encountered any issues, they could find him in the backyard garden. The team decided to split up and search the premises. Lin Chuan was confident in his ability to detect anything emitting a bloody aura. However, after a while, he grew exhausted, and to his frustration, there was nothing unusual to be found. Not a trace of a bloody aura. Both Mylan and Mu Xiuangai appeared equally fatigued. They all sat down, and even without speaking, their expressions conveyed their lack of success. Mu Xiuangai explained that everything that once belonged to Wellington had been removed. Whenever this case resurfaced, search teams had scoured the house thoroughly. Any secret mechanisms or hidden passageways had long been dismantled, leaving nothing to discover. Lin Chuan couldn't help but feel disappointed as his month of paid vacation seemed to be slipping away. In the midst of their exhaustion and frustration, Lin Chuan's attention was drawn to the fountain. Something about it seemed odd. Without hesitation, he rushed over to examine it. However, in his haste, Lin Chuan slipped and fell quite hard due to the slippery surface. His head collided with the base of the fountain, causing it to crack apart. Mu Xiuangai was concerned that Lin Chuan might be seriously injured, while Maya Lun jokingly wondered if Lin Chuan's head was made of iron. Lin Chuan managed to get up, seemingly unharmed, and was puzzled by the amount of water that had leaked out. Mu Xiuangai scolded him for his recklessness, and Maya Lun asked if he had found anything. It was then that they noticed a reddish ball inside the cracked fountain. They speculated whether this might be part of Wellington's magic. The red ball suddenly jumped out of the crack, startling all three of them. Lin Chuan began to analyze the situation, considering the information he had gathered about Wellington's magic. It was indeed powerful, capable of concealing a strong blood aura. Lin Chuan had been completely unaware of it until now. Furthermore, the red ball bore a striking resemblance to the stone that had entered Lin Chuan's body. Back at the White Arrow Harbor Guard post office, the officers were diligently inspecting the tokens they had found. However, team leader Su stated that none of them appeared to belong to the Mu family. Mu Xiuangai stood apart, frustration evident in her posture. She was determined to discover where Wellington had hidden her family's precious seal. Team leader Su addressed her team, expressing gratitude for the significant progress they had made while handling the case. She candidly admitted that this progress would greatly benefit her chances of promotion, for which she was very thankful. She promised to reward her team if her promotion went through. Although team leader Su had a close relationship with both Mu Xiuangai and Maya Lun, she maintained a clear distinction between official and personal matters. Team leader Su then commended Lin Chuan for his significant contribution to the case and offered to fulfill a request if he had one. Lin Chuan wasted no time and asked team leader Su about how they would handle the red ball. He provided some insights, mentioning that the wooden ball was made of ironwood, which possessed insect repellent and anti-corrosive properties. Lin Chuan had heard that the blood elves preferred to store things in spherical objects with these qualities. He hinted that it might be a valuable craft item, suggesting its potential worth. Team leader Su, seeing through his intentions, informed him that the identification group had thoroughly examined it and concluded that it was just a normal wooden sculpture. She offered it to him, saying he could have it. Given that it was an antique, it would likely hold some value. Lin Chuan eagerly accepted the ball, expressing his desire to keep it as a souvenir to commemorate their investigation. Everyone in the room was pretty sure that Lin Chuan was lying. That night, in the guard post dormitories, Lin Chuan couldn't help but fidget with the red wooden ball. Despite team leader Su's assurance that it was just a normal wooden sculpture, he still had a nagging feeling that there was something unusual about it. He had acted smoothly to secure it, and now he was determined to unravel its mysteries. After spending half the night examining the ball, Lin Chuan couldn't find any evidence of it being anything more than a craft item. It didn't react to any of his tests, leaving him puzzled. He considered whether it was truly just an antique. In the end, he decided to focus on completing his blueprint commissions, aiming to accumulate enough points to become a mechanic. Lin Chuan worked diligently, and 2 hours later, he had finished creating a tracking and surveillance device, which he named White No. 1. He believed that this device could prove useful and save him a lot of trouble. However, before putting it to use, he knew he needed to conduct an experiment to ensure its functionality. Lin Chuan quickly made his way to the area where he had felt the searing pain in his head. His goal was to explore the nearby underground black market. Upon arriving at the northern red light district, he entered a pub to gather information. Sitting at the bar, the bartender discreetly inquired if Lin Chuan was going after a bounty, mentioning that there were plenty of missions available. He offered Lin Chuan the freedom to choose whichever mission he preferred. However, before Lin Chuan could make a decision, Mu Shuangai unexpectedly appeared out of nowhere. She began negotiating with the bartender, asking for an extension of the time limit for her mission because she couldn't locate her target within the given time frame. Lin Chuan was puzzled by Mu Shuangai's presence in such a place. Mu Shuangai continued to argue with the bartender, explaining that the mission was challenging, and the northern block was vast, making her task difficult. She also accused him of not providing any helpful hints. The bartender reminded her of the rules, stating that if she failed to complete the mission she had accepted, she would be required to strip and run through the main entrance. Mu Shuangai protested against such a consequence, thinking he was joking. However, her attention was suddenly diverted as she spotted someone hiding nearby. Lin Chuan could only hope she didn't notice him, but unfortunately, both his hiding place and his presence were exposed. Both Mu Shuangai and Lin Chuan had their own reasons for being in the red light district. Mu Shuangai explained that she was here to achieve certain objectives, but she was curious about Lin Chuan's motives. Lin Chuan, not wanting to get involved, encouraged Mu Shuangai to focus on her mission and not pay him any mind. However, Mu Shuangai came up with a clever idea. She put on a cute expression and asked Lin Chuan for his assistance with her mission. When that didn't work, she offered him money. Unable to resist the allure of money, Lin Chuan agreed to help her. He also promised to behave and not cause any trouble, understanding that this was a serious matter. Mu Shuangai treated Lin Chuan to a hearty meal, and he indulged himself to the fullest, even burping loudly. However, Mu Shuangai reminded him of the time limit for their mission and expressed her concern that Lin Chuan's overindulgence might lead to her mission's failure. Lin Chuan defended his eating spree by explaining that he needed the strength to confront their target, who was believed to be a rapist and possibly a Stage 5 Centroid Force expert. Mu Shuangai shared the information that their target had been in the northern block a few days ago, and was skilled in concealment techniques. Mu Shuangai had repeated the mission details so many times that Lin Chuan could recite them word for word. He then shifted his attention back to his food and recommended a rainbow slushy, a specialty of White Arrow Harbor, to Mu Shuangai. However, his focus on food rather than the mission infuriated Mu Shuangai, and she became convinced that Lin Chuan was intentionally trying to sabotage her mission just to witness her running out of the front door naked. She cried out, accusing Lin Chuan of being a scammer. Lin Chuan eventually gave in, assuring her that he had his own methods to accomplish the task. He then presented a white robotic mouse, promising to bring good news soon. However, Mu Shuang'ai wasn't entirely pleased with this mechanical solution. As she examined it closely, it accidentally activated and seemed to move towards her chest. She wondered if the robot had said something, but she quickly realized the situation and labeled Lin Chuan a scoundrel. Lin Chuan, feeling embarrassed about the robotic mouse incident, took control of it and urged Mu Shuang'ai to focus on the mission. She then proposed a bet, suggesting that if he lost, he would have to assist her in dealing with the people in the store and buy her more food. Lin Chuan gladly accepted, convinced that she would be covering their dinner expenses tonight. As they continued tracking the bounty target using the robotic mouse, Lin Chuan received a notification that the target had been registered, initiating target tracking. This development met his initial expectations, and he anticipated seeing results soon. An indication appeared, showing a bright dot with a high biological data similarity score. Mu Shuang'ai was confident that today she would succeed in making the stingy Lin Chuan open his wallet, and she wore a mischievous smile. Lin Chuan, as he concentrated on tracking the bounty target, couldn't believe what he was seeing on the screen. His face turned red, and Mu Shuang'ai started urging him to let her see what was going on. Lin Chuan, flustered, told her to stop making a fuss because he was trying to work. Suddenly, the white mouse robot couldn't move any further. Lin Chuan realized what was happening. Another gray rat was attempting to get intimate with the robotic mouse. The robotic mouse reacted angrily, killing the rat with its sharp tail. Lin Chuan, witnessing this unfortunate event, cursed the gray rat for tainting his work. It was the first time something like this had happened, and now his once pure white mouse was no longer pure. Mu Shuang'ai demanded to know what Lin Chuan had seen and why his expression was so complicated. Lin Chuan, feeling awkward, tried to brush off the topic, telling her that the little white mouse had been attacked, and he had been busy dodging it. Mu Shuang'ai, however, sensed that Lin Chuan was hiding something and pressed him further. Lin Chuan attempted to change the topic by asking her how she managed to sneak out, given that the Mu family's chamberlain always kept an eye on her. Mu Shuang'ai, carried away with her own story, explained that she had used holograms to create a fake copy of herself and an entire set of tools to escape. But she stopped midway, realizing that Lin Chuan was trying to divert the conversation, and scolded him. Lin Chuan then declared that he had spotted the bounty target, which immediately got Mu Shuang'ai excited, causing her to forget about their previous conversation. She was eager to know more about the target. Lin Chuan left Mu Shuang'ai behind and went off on his own. He promised to be back in half an hour and instructed her to wait for him. Mu Shuang'ai's initial excitement faded, and she couldn't help but label him as a scoundrel. Exactly half an hour later, Mu Shuang'ai waited near the bar as Lin Chuan returned, dragging along a man whom he slammed onto the bar counter. The man coughed violently and taunted Lin Chuan, claiming that he wouldn't be able to maintain that smile for long. He hinted at an impending storm coming to White Arrow Harbor, laughing menacingly. Lin Chuan banged the man's head on the counter again and demanded that he speak clearly. The man continued to laugh and said Lin Chuan would find out soon enough. Lin Chuan turned to Mu Shuang'ai and asked her what kind of madness she thought they might unleash. Mu Shuang'ai informed Lin Chuan that the man was just a 3-star concealment thief and not capable of much. She believed he was just putting on a facade before his inevitable demise. She urged Lin Chuan that they needed to leave immediately. Lin Chuan couldn't help but question Mu Shuang'ai's behavior. He had just helped her, but she seemed ungrateful and didn't even thank him. Mu Shuang'ai maintained her attitude, insisting that nothing was wrong, and reminding him that she had already paid the fees for his assistance. Their conversation continued as they left the bar, and Lin Chuan couldn't help but wonder what had caused this sudden change in Mu Shuang'ai's behavior. He sighed audibly, admitting to himself that he often couldn't understand women. However, as they walked, Mu Shuang'ai suddenly stopped and called over a small, impoverished girl. The young girl appeared confused but followed Mu Shuang'ai's instructions. Mu Shuang'ai approached her and handed her a bag filled with food. She told the girl to hold the bag tightly and be careful not to drop it on her way. The little girl expressed her gratitude to Mu Shuang'ai warmly. Mu Shuang'ai extended her generosity by offering the little girl some money as well. She handed the girl a substantial amount of silver coins. However, Lin Chuan immediately intervened, stopping her from giving more. Mu Shuang'ai was puzzled by Lin Chuan's actions and wondered why he was being so stingy. Lin Chuan then gave the little girl a few coins and watched as she happily ran back to her home. After the girl had left, Lin Chuan explained his reasoning. He was concerned that Mu Shuang'ai had given the girl too much money. 5 silver coins was a significant sum, especially for children living in poverty. Lin Chuan expressed his worry that the girl might be vulnerable to theft or even harm on her way home. Mu Shuang'ai looked perplexed by his explanation, but this incident triggered a memory that had been tucked away in her mind. Mu Xiongai's memory took her back to a time when her grandfather had scolded her for giving a beggar a few gold coins. She had been upset with her grandfather, accusing him of being a bad person. Young Mu Xiong'ai firmly believed that everyone, regardless of their status, deserved compassion. She had cited her teacher, who had condemned the behavior of evil and corrupt nobles. Mu Xiong'ai had questioned her grandfather about why it was wrong to give gold coins to a beggar. Her grandfather had sighed and explained that there were many things a young girl like her couldn't fully understand. Although she didn't argue further with him at the time, Mu Xiong'ai had been deeply affected by the incident. She recalled that she had distanced herself from her grandfather afterward, and sadly, he had passed away not long after that. Mu Xiong'ai had been heartbroken by his death and had cried profusely at his funeral. Lin Chuan returned to the dormitory, but his mind was far from at ease. The sense of danger he had felt and the ominous words spoken by the scoundrel at the bar weighed heavily on his thoughts. He stood there, tense and worried, contemplating whether something significant was on the horizon. On top of that, when they had parted ways after their mission, Lin Chuan had noticed that Mu Xiong'ai seemed to be in tears. He debated whether he should talk to her about it, express his concern, and offer comfort. However, he ultimately decided against it, remembering the formidable Mu family and its chamberlain. He figured it was best to leave it to those who were closer to Mu Xiong'ai and better equipped to support her emotionally. Lin Chuan's sense of accomplishment was palpable as he reviewed his progress and achievements. He had diligently completed numerous commissions and put in considerable effort, resulting in significant advancements. His repairman certification had reached a high grade, granting him access to the exclusive mechanics forum. However, Lin Chuan was aware that despite his achievements, his current strength was insufficient to protect himself in the face of potential dangers. He recognized the need for caution and continued growth. Determined to become stronger, he delved into the forum to learn from seasoned experts and enhance his abilities. One post, which seemed to be quite professional, was authored by Gong Guanyang, the 25-year-old team leader of the 3rd Mechanic Association's group, caught Lin Chuan's attention. Gong Guanyang was known as a rare talent, even within the 3rd group. Lin Chuan decided to study thoroughly, drawing insights and ideas that could contribute to the improvement of the White Mouse. Lin Chuan felt a sense of accomplishment and grateful for his recent encounter with Gong Guanyang, removed his shirt to reveal a toned and muscular body. As he did so, he couldn't help but reflect on how fortunate he was to have concealed his true identity and engaged in a mechanics duel with Gong Guanyang. The duel had ended in a tie, allowing Lin Chuan to obtain the materials needed to reconstruct his White Mouse. Just when Lin Chuan was basking in his success, a message from Gong Guanyang popped up, inviting him to join the Mechanic Association. While this was an exciting opportunity, Lin Chuan recognized that his current strength was insufficient, and he needed to proceed with caution. He didn't want to become a subject of their experiments or expose himself prematurely. Lin Chuan politely declined the invitation for the time being, suggesting that they discuss it later. With work completed, he shifted his focus to training. Sitting in a meditation position, he began his rigorous training regimen, determined to become stronger. As Lin Chuan engaged in his meditation and intense training, he couldn't help but feel a strange sensation. The signs and symbols that had appeared on his body due to his contact with the mysterious stone ball began to reappear, and they started to glow with an eerie light. It was as if the dormant power within him was awakening. Astonishingly, the red ball he had brought along with him, the same one he had discovered hidden within the fountain earlier, also began to glow brightly. Then, without warning, the red ball cracked open. In the confines of Lyre County's Haimu prison, Lady Chamora, accompanied by her blood-sucking companions, strolled confidently through the supposedly impenetrable walls of Nanliuo District's renowned Haimu prison. She couldn't help but mock the incompetence of the authorities in Lyre County and White Arrow Harbor for believing that this prison was truly secure. Lady Chamora reveled in the thought of the surprise her actions would bring to those idiots who thought Haimu prison was impregnable. With gratitude, Lady Chamora acknowledged the hidden blood successors who had made her entry into the prison so effortless. One of the guards, now also a blood successor, led her to cell 0. As the safety gate swung open, Lady Chamora entered the cell and began calling out to her fellow inmates, informing them that their fortunate day had arrived, freedom was on the horizon. Lady Chamora, in exchange for their freedom, offered the inmates a deal: they must work for her just once. She assured them that not only would they regain their freedom, but they would also have access to as many of the green crystal coins used in both the eastern and western continents as they desired. To sweeten the deal, Lady Chamora promised to help them achieve something they all desired: revenge. She explained her plan to the inmates, focusing on the special guard team stationed at White Arrow Harbor. Lady Chamora required them to eliminate the entire damned team, and the offer seemed too tempting for the inmates to resist. Lady Chamora's plan had found fertile ground among the prisoners in Haimu prison. They were eager for a chance at freedom and revenge against the special guard team, whom they held deep grudges against. One prisoner pledged his unwavering loyalty to Lady Chamora, while another expressed his burning desire to tear the special guards apart. It was a sinister alliance forming, and Lady Chamora couldn't help but revel in her wicked success. As Lin Chuan was pondering the strange appearance of the blue ragdoll cat in the red ball, he realized that he needed some time to figure this out. He quickly contacted team leader Su and requested 2 days off, claiming that he wasn't feeling well. This was partly because he didn't want his breakthrough to Centroid Force Stage 6 to be noticed and cause trouble. Additionally, he now had to deal with the unexpected arrival of a cat. Lin Chuan examined the cat and found it to be a normal blue ragdoll cat, but the circumstances surrounding its appearance were far from normal. He even began to suspect if there was something wrong with his testing device. Just then, he received a message from Mu Xuanai, who had heard from team leader Su that he was sick and was on her way to visit him. Lin Chuan was taken aback, realizing that he needed to act quickly to prevent Mu Xuanai from discovering the blue cat. But she was already at his doorstep. What unfortunate timing. Lin Chuan opened the door and greeted Mu Xuanai, who quickly assessed that he appeared to be perfectly fine. He pretended to have a headache and explained that he wasn't feeling well. However, Mu Xuanai didn't seem convinced and asked why he was blocking the door, questioning if she wasn't welcome. Lin Chuan couldn't turn her away, so he reluctantly allowed her inside, albeit with the excuse that his place was messy. Mu Xuanai entered the room, which was, in fact, quite clean, and sarcastically commented that it was pretty messy. This annoyed Lin Chuan, and he urged her to get to the point. Mu Xuanai then handed him a bag of fruits as a greeting and bluntly told him that she knew he was pretending to be sick to avoid work. She saw right through his act. Mu Xuanai was frustrated with Lin Chuan for making her worry over nothing. She knew he couldn't have suddenly fallen sick when he was perfectly fine. Lin Chuan felt embarrassed and told her to sit down while he went to get some water for her. However, while Lin Chuan was away, the blue cat meowed at Mu Xuanai, and she instantly fell in love with the cute little creature. She couldn't resist its charm and picked it up, expressing her delight at how adorable it was. Lin Chuan returned with the water and was shocked to find the cat out and in Mu Xuanai's arms. He wondered how she had discovered the cat. Mu Xuanai, still excited about the cat, asked Lin Chuan if it was his pet since he didn't seem like a cat person. Lin Chuan sighed and explained that he had found the little cat abandoned on the roadside when he was coming home the previous night, so he had brought it home. He added that he didn't have any experience with raising pets, so he was quite busy taking care of it. Mu Xuanai playfully taunted Lin Chuan, suggesting that he was a caring person and jokingly wondered why she couldn't find a cat like he did. Lin Chuan got her playful intentions but reminded her to talk to him nicely. Mu Xuanai looked at the cat in her hands and told Lin Chuan that she felt like the blue cat liked her a lot. She asked him if he would consider letting her take it home. She then shifted her attention to the little kitty, asking if it wanted to go with her. The cat looked pretty scared, caught between two people, unsure of what was happening. That's when the cat, in a fit of fury, kicked Mu Xuanai on the face and managed to escape from her hold. Mu Xuanai wasn't offended but instead chased after the cat. Lin Chuan couldn't give her the cat just yet as he hadn't figured out where it came from. Mu Xuanai was in the process of repairing her relationship with the cat, telling it that they could slowly bond even if they weren't very close at the moment. She declared that this blue cat was the cat of her dreams. The blue cat, desperate to get away from Mu Xuanai, ran as fast as it could until it reached a dead end, unable to run any further. Mu Xuanai was glad and called the cat her baby, though she had a somewhat mischievous look on her face. Just then, Lin Chuan put a hand on her shoulder, suggesting that she should stop now. Mu Xuanai pleaded for just one chance to keep the cat. Lin Chuan informed Mu Xuanai about the brewing typhoon outside and urged her to return home as soon as possible. He continued to emphasize the weather forecast, mentioning that a hurricane was expected later in the day. He insisted that she should leave early to avoid any potential danger when the wind picked up. Mu Xuanai tried to argue, but Lin Chuan didn't give her a chance. In frustration, Mu Xuanai lamented that Lin Chuan was separating her from the cat of her dreams, and she vowed never to forgive him. Lin Chuan accepted her curses happily, as his priority was to ensure she left the room. Lin Chuan decided to keep his distance from Mu Xuangai, recognizing that her identity was too dangerous. Being cautious was the prudent course of action. Unfortunately, it was too late for the officers. The blood-sucking enemies had meticulously planned and executed their attack with precision. Among the group of blood successors, there was a sniper who directed their actions, urging them to move quickly and clean up the scene. He even instructed them to replace the glass in the vehicle. He boldly declared that they were now relying on this truck from the guard post for their plan tonight. Their mission was to hunt, and the sniper was determined to follow the orders given to him by their leader, Boss Larkin. He knew he had to play his part well in this deadly game. The news of the Haimu prison breakout spread rapidly, and team leader Su Duanpo soon learned about it. Frustration overwhelmed her, and she slammed her hand on the table as she realized that the prisoners from Haimu prison had escaped as well. She scolded the person who informed her on the call, as within a single day, prisoners from 3 different prisons had managed to break free. This amounted to nearly 1,000 dangerous criminals now on the loose and beyond the borders of Liar County. In response to the crisis, team leader Su made an announcement, instructing all officers to cancel their vacations and assemble at the guard post immediately. She explained that they would be working together with the Liar County guard post to capture the escapees. When Lin Chuan received this message, he felt a sinking sensation in his heart, realizing that their situation had taken a grave turn. In the forest bordering White Arrow Harbor, Lin Chuan and his fellow teammates were on patrol duty. Lin Chuan couldn't help but feel frustrated at being dragged out for duty despite his supposed sick leave. However, he was thankful that he had created several copies of the White Mouse, which he could use as his trusty scouts. Suddenly, Lin Chuan spotted a criminal who had recently escaped from Liar County. He hurried to inform Instructor Cray about the discovery. However, just as he was about to do so, Lin Chuan started receiving notifications about numerous other monsters within a specific range. The beeping sound of these notifications continued incessantly, leaving Instructor Cray puzzled and asking Lin Chuan what was happening. Lin Chuan received notifications about the approaching enemies, and he quickly realized that these individuals seemed to be after him. He immediately relayed this information to Instructor Cray, emphasizing that there were multiple enemies in close proximity, some of whom were rapidly closing in on their position. Instructor Cray swiftly issued orders to his team, instructing them to halt and prepare for a defensive stance. He directed them to seek cover and be on high alert to repel any threats. However, Instructor Cray was understandably concerned about how Lin Chuan had detected the presence of these enemies when his own detector hadn't picked up anything. He wanted to understand the source of Lin Chuan's information. Instructor Cray quickly questioned his team members if they had detected anything unusual, but their detectors showed no signs of the approaching enemies. He turned to Lin Chuan, who had spotted the enemies without the aid of the detectors. Lin Chuan confirmed that the enemies were directly ahead and rapidly closing in. He estimated that they would engage in combat within 10 seconds. This situation puzzled Lin Chuan, as the enemies were dangerously close, yet the team's detectors remained inactive. Just as he relayed this information, the monsters and blood successors descended upon the team, attacking in significant numbers. Instructor Cray ordered the team to open fire, and a fierce battle erupted. During the skirmish, Officer Lai Feng found himself under attack by one of the monsters and called out for assistance. The team quickly responded, eliminating the threat. Lin Chuan couldn't help but wonder if these monsters and blood successors were acting recklessly, targeting him without regard for their own lives. Meanwhile, Instructor Cray warned the team to exercise caution, noting that there was something peculiar about these attackers. He then spotted an enemy with a grenade, and the situation became even more dangerous as the grenade detonated with a deafening blast. Indeed, it was an illuminant bomb, and Instructor Cray swiftly ordered everyone to take cover. The team dispersed and tried to find hiding spots to protect themselves. However, the situation took a darker turn when Old Wang was attacked, revealing the presence of a sniper in the vicinity. They realized that not even a shield could block the sniper's shots. Instructor Cray urgently commanded the team to lie low on the ground and cautioned them against raising their heads. Despite his warnings, Chen Zhong was also shot, and Instructor Cray grew increasingly frustrated, berating the team to stay hidden. As the enemies continued their assault with another weapon, Lin Chuan attempted to communicate, but Instructor Cray silenced him, emphasizing the danger of speaking at that critical moment. Lin Chuan, instead, analyzed the situation by listening to the noises and assessing the angle of the shots. He deduced that there were likely 2 snipers in play and speculated that they possessed highly potent military-grade weapons, as even the guards' shields couldn't block their shots. Furthermore, Lin Chuan noted that, apart from the White Mouse robot, the standard detectors used by the guard team were unable to detect the enemies. He speculated that the attackers might possess other devices capable of disrupting signals, and these devices were likely military grade. Lin Chuan couldn't help but wonder how these jailbreakers had acquired such powerful equipment immediately after escaping from prison. It pointed to a potentially shocking conspiracy behind these events. Personally, Lin Chuan was not interested in getting involved and just wanted to go home. However, Instructor Cray reassured him, expressing appreciation for his performance as a student and acknowledging that Lin Chuan had done splendidly. He assured Lin Chuan that the Special Guard team owed him a lot. Instructor Cray had already requested backup and promised to ensure that they all returned alive for the head count. He rallied his teammates, urging them to hold on a bit longer as backup was on its way. In this tense situation, Lin Chuan entered a trance as he detected that more enemies were rapidly approaching their position, and there were even more of them than before. Instructor Cray couldn't believe it, but then the attacks began again, with blasts echoing around them. He urged his team to hold on. The monsters attacked the team, shouting for them to die, but Instructor Cray advised his team to focus on destroying the illuminant bomb. After a while, when the chaos subsided, Instructor Cray called out to his teammates to check on their status. Fang Yi was there, and when he called out to Lin Chuan, there was no immediate response. This made Instructor Cray anxious, fearing the worst, but then Lin Chuan answered on the second call. Now, only the three of them remained. Lin Chuan boldly declared that he had located the snipers. He informed Instructor Cray that one of them was positioned in a tree about 200 meters away, and the other sniper wasn't far from their location either. However, a significant problem arose as over a dozen criminals were protecting the snipers. Instructor Cray, concerned about the possibility of another charge by the criminals with just the three of them, listens to Lin Chuan's suggestion to take the initiative and attack the snipers first. Lin Chuan decides to eliminate the snipers, and Instructor Cray agrees to the plan. He informs Lin Chuan that he and Fang Yi will divert the snipers' attention, and if the criminals come after them, Lin Chuan can get rid of the snipers. The snipers were unaware that their location had been compromised, giving the team an advantage. However, Instructor Cray reminds Lin Chuan that he's still a student, and if things get too dangerous, he shouldn't push himself too hard. Lin Chuan acknowledges the danger of the mission and assures Instructor Cray that he won't attempt anything beyond his capabilities. The snipers, thinking they had won, were celebrating their victory. However, they suddenly detected movement at 10 o'clock, and one of the snipers aimed in that direction. He believed that only two enemies were left, but they were about to meet their demise. The sniper started firing at Instructor Cray and Fang Yi but found it challenging due to the dense trees. The sniper complained that this mission had been too easy thanks to the money, equipment, and people provided by the mastermind behind it all. He looked forward to some relaxation after it was over. However, his plans were abruptly thwarted when Lin Chuan, attacking from behind, took him out. The sniper was infuriated as he couldn't locate Lin Chuan, but he didn't get a chance to react as Lin Chuan swiftly attacked him. Lin Chuan insisted to send him to another world to have a nice time. As Lin Chuan attempted to attack the sniper again, the sniper grabbed hold of him tightly and called for the others to shoot him. Despite a series of shots fired, Lin Chuan remained unharmed. He wondered if these attackers had missed him multiple times in a row, but he was mistaken. Someone was approaching him, and with a ray of light, the sniper was eliminated. It was team leader Su who had come to their aid. She humorously told one of them to fetch a new pair of pants for Lin Chuan. Team leader Su had arrived to assist them, and she instructed Lin Chuan to stay back with Fang Yi to clean up the area, as she needed to attend to something else. As a few of the enemies attempted to escape, they realized that the guard post's personnel were still pursuing them, so they decided to set up a surprise. They deployed explosives with the sole intention of eliminating the team. Larkin, who had been observing the situation from a distance, expressed his determination to kill all the members of the Special Guard team. Lady Chamora was also present, and she casually mentioned that the blood and flesh of the Special Guard team leader must be delicious. However, she had meticulously orchestrated the situation, using the blood successors and the trap set by Wellington, so she warned Larkin not to ruin her plans, threatening to tear him to shreds if he did. Meanwhile, Lin Chuan was occupied with driving the vehicle for team leader Su, who urged him to go faster. Su Duanpo pressured Lin Chuan to drive faster, warning him that the enemies might escape. Lin Chuan was acutely aware that they were the sole pursuers of these criminals and began to wonder if team leader Su intended to handle everything herself. Soon, the enemies started shooting at their vehicle, further intensifying the situation. Su Duanpo, in her anger, retaliated by firing arrows ablaze with fire towards the attackers. She then instructed Lin Chuan to pull in front of the enemy's vehicle to block their path and force them to stop. Simultaneously, she rushed into the enemy's vehicle on her own. Lin Chuan followed her instructions and accelerated, positioning their vehicle in front of the enemies. The collision resulted in a loud bang, and the enemies were finally forced to come to a halt. Lady Chamora expressed her satisfaction, relishing the unfolding situation she had long awaited. She raised her hands in triumph, as this was the moment she had patiently anticipated. Larkin, too, shared her enthusiasm, rejoicing as they watched their prey fall into the trap they had carefully set. As Lin Chuan stood there, he couldn't help but notice the strange reddish formation that had materialized. He couldn't fathom its purpose or significance. Suddenly, team leader Su tumbled out of their vehicle, clearly in pain. Lin Chuan rushed to her side, asking urgently what had transpired. As soon as Su Duanpo stepped onto that mysterious formation, she was bombarded by incredibly loud and distressing voices. She tried to cover her ears and screamed in agony. Lin Chuan, still bewildered, failed to comprehend the situation, wondering why he was unaffected while team leader Su was in such distress. The criminals revel in their sinister laughter upon realizing that their boss's plans have come to fruition. One of them gleefully confirms the identity of Su Duanpo as the guard post leader, relishing the prospect of capturing such a high-ranking official. They express their excitement, believing that this achievement will make them infamous. Their elation continues as they spot Lin Chuan. To them, it's like a buy one, get one free deal. Lin Chuan attempts to appear innocent, but it's already too late. They've decided to prolong the torment for both team leader Su and Lin Chuan, as it wouldn't be as much fun if they ended things too quickly. Lin Chuan, feeling annoyed and protective, steps in front of team leader Su to shield her from the criminals. The overwhelming number of adversaries makes him doubt his own abilities. However, team leader Su attempts to push him away, urging him to back off. As she reaches out to pull him aside, their hands touch, creating a strangely magical sensation. In that moment, team leader Su experiences something extraordinary. The pain that had been afflicting her vanishes as if by magic, replaced by a sensation of purity and relief. She is left wondering about the mysterious effect of their touch. Lin Chuan, after briefly experiencing the relief his touch brought to team leader Su, turns to check on her as she lets go of his hand abruptly. The pain she was suffering from quickly returns. Lin Chuan looks concerned, but then team leader Su calls him over to her. In a surprising turn of events, she embraces Lin Chuan, leaving him utterly perplexed. She instructs him to remain quiet and stick with her in this manner. This little guy, Lin Chuan, feels embarrassed and tries to express himself, but team leader Su cuts him off, ordering him to keep silent. With Lin Chuan by her side, team leader Su approaches the group of criminals, making a bold declaration that the escapees who resist arrest violently will face immediate justice. It wasn't the darkest of nights, but with Lin Chuan by her side, team leader Su held on to hope. However, as their plan failed, the monsters grew eager and prepared to attack the two captured humans. Taking the lead, Su Duanpo sprang into action, engaging the monsters who proved to be formidable opponents. Undeterred, she, with the help of Lin Chuan, bravely launched one assault after another. Suddenly, the monsters decided to cease their physical combat and drew their weapons, opening fire. In the face of this danger, team leader Su acted quickly, pushing Lin Chuan to the front and taking cover behind him. Initially upset by this, Lin Chuan then realized she was instructing him to activate a shield for protection. The bullets continued to rain down, but the shield provided them with solid protection. Lin Chuan found team leader Su hugging him from behind, which left him feeling somewhat perplexed and embarrassed. She instructed him to brace himself, leaving Lin Chuan even more bewildered. Soon, Lin Chuan grasped the strategy behind Su Duanpo's plan, and they swung into action. Together, they executed precise maneuvers, systematically eliminating their adversaries. The monsters couldn't withstand the coordinated assault of this duo, so the Blood successors decided to join the battle. They unleashed their famous shrieks, known for their deafening volume. This time, team leader Su instructed Lin Chuan to quickly take cover behind her. As the Blood Elf shrieks filled the air, Su Duanpo sensed something was amiss. The impact of the shrieks didn't seem as potent as she remembered. Her suspicion led her to consider that Lin Chuan might be a key factor in this unexpected turn of events. If Lin Chuan's presence was indeed the key, then Su Duanpo had another plan up her sleeve. With a massive leap, she prepared to launch another attack on the blood successors. The blood successors couldn't comprehend what was happening and why their blood elf shriek had become ineffective. Su Duanpo didn't allow them time to figure it out and struck her weapon fiercely at the blood-sucking monsters. Throughout this intense engagement, Lin Chuan remained by her side, increasingly awed by team leader Su's immense strength. The attack proved highly successful, and both Lin Chuan and team leader Su safely landed back on the bridge. The bits and parts of the defeated enemies lay scattered all over the place. Shortly after, the formation that had been created started to dissipate. Team leader Su noticed that the sinister energy had vanished as well, prompting a relieved sigh from Lin Chuan. Team leader Su inquired if Lin Chuan was unharmed, still pondering why he hadn't been affected by the sinister energy. Lin Chuan reassured her that he was fine, but then she noticed that he was tightly gripping her hand and not letting go. Annoyed by this, Su Duanpo twisted his hand and flung Lin Chuan onto the floor, causing him to cry out in pain from the unexpected attack. As if nothing had happened, team leader Su let out a sigh, and then informed Lin Chuan that the enemies had been defeated, and the strange formation had dissipated. She instructed him to search for the corpses to gather clues. Lin Chuan, despite being shaken by her recent actions, had important news to share. He informed her that there were still a number of blood elves hidden in the woods. Team leader Su was taken aback by the revelation that the enemies had been observing them from the woods all along. Lin Chuan surmised that they were likely hidden there to monitor their actions. Su Duanpo couldn't believe that the enemies had been so close to them without their knowledge and wondered if it was part of another trap. Meanwhile, in the woods, Larkin was growing increasingly frustrated with the blood elves. He expressed his disdain for their incompetence, as they couldn't even eliminate 2 individuals and had lost some of their own in the process. He expressed his intention to take care of the special guard team members on his own. Lady Chamora cautioned him not to jeopardize her plans, insisting that he wait for a few more days, as the special guard team would soon meet a tragic fate. Larkin was seething with anger, determined to avenge his fallen comrades by personally taking the lives of the special guard team members. However, Lady Chamora reminded him to exercise patience and wait for her plans to unfold, as she believed their enemies would soon meet a grim fate. As Lin Chuan learned of the enemy's departure from the woods, he promptly informed team leader Su. Su Duanpo was puzzled and demanded to know the true intentions of these adversaries, as their actions seemed baffling and their purpose unclear. Lin Chuan relayed to team leader Su his concerns about the strange behavior of the blood elves and their ability to control people in the forests. He was particularly worried about how to deal with these adversaries who could seemingly manipulate others at will. In response, Su Duanpo explained that the blood elves possessed a unique talent known as the power of the blood elves. With their own blood serving as a medium, they could transform others into blood successors. While this might not be common knowledge, it wasn't a secret among those at higher levels of understanding. Lin Chuan came to understand that the secret technique behind how the blood elves controlled others remained shrouded in mystery, known only to the blood elves themselves. Even when the guard teams had apprehended blood elf criminals in the past, any attempts to uncover this secret would send the criminals into a frenzy, leading to their death. This explained why the special guard team struggled to defend against this mysterious power. Lin Chuan was taken aback by the extent of the blood elves' abilities, and he had many questions swirling in his mind. He felt like he had just taken a walk around the gates of hell. Team leader Su recognized his concern but reassured him, expressing her appreciation for his actions and promising a suitable reward. With so much going on, Lin Chuan decided to focus on enhancing his own strength as quickly as possible to ensure his safety. Lin Chuan receives a notification that triggers his concern. When team leader Su inquires about it, he explains that something important came up at home, and he requests permission to leave. Lin Chuan quickly returns home and searches for the blue cat. Once he locates the cat, he names it Blue Meow and asks it to come out of hiding and reveal its true identity. Blue Meow attempts to act innocent, but Lin Chuan knows better, as the white robotic mouse had recorded everything, and he had seen the evidence. Lin Chuan becomes convinced that Blue Meow is more than just an ordinary cat and suspects that it might be a spy for the blood elves. In an attempt to get information from Blue Meow, Lin Chuan pressures the cat to reveal the blood elves' plans. However, the pressure becomes too much for the poor cat, and it faints, leaving Lin Chuan in a state of turmoil. After the chaos had subsided, it was time to deal with the aftermath. The Blood Elves had executed their plan smoothly and successfully trapped and captured the Vice Commander of the Special Agents, Vice Commander Mike. Despite being in excruciating pain, Vice Commander Mike displayed remarkable resilience. Lady Chamora, however, couldn't help but taunt him, acknowledging his strength in holding on for so long. She ordered her subordinates to increase the intensity of their torment, wanting to test how much more Vice Commander Mike could endure. The Blood Elves intensified their use of the Blood Elf's shriek, subjecting Mike to even greater suffering. Larkin, growing impatient, questioned Lady Chamora about the conversion rate of her hidden blood successors. He wanted to ensure that if this process failed, he would have the pleasure of consuming Vice Commander Mike. The situation was dire for the Vice Commander, with his captors showing no mercy. Lady Chamora took the opportunity to taunt Larkin, commenting on the perceived vulgarity of his wild animal type. She then promised him that if the ongoing procedure were to fail, Vice Commander Mike would be all his. Larkin appeared to relish the thought, even though nothing had been confirmed yet. Meanwhile, Vice Commander Mike continued to endure extreme suffering, with his senses overwhelmed and his body weakened. The Blood Elf overseeing the operation decided it was time to put an end to it. He opened a book, unleashing a secret magic from its pages, and directed it toward Mike. In just a couple of minutes, it became apparent that the Blood Elf's technique had been successful. The malevolent community was overjoyed with the outcome. At Lin Chuan's residence in White Arrow Harbor, a strange scene unfolded. A group of white mice was behaving erratically, attacking each other. Lin Chuan watched them closely and realized that after consuming food mixed with the Blood Tribe's blood, the mice were unable to recognize their own kind. They would attack any living being in their vicinity. Lin Chuan decided to take action. He placed a band around their necks and initiated a process. With a single click, the mice began to regain control. In an instant, he could tell that it was working, and the Blood Elf brain-disrupting headband was effective. Although it seemed uncomfortable, the mice were no longer attacking each other. With the headband's success, Lin Chuan's thoughts turned to the gun specially designed for the Blood Elves. He decided to test it on an unusual target, something he suspected wasn't entirely innocent. Lin Chuan had his eye on Blue Meow, the peculiar cat. He held the cat in his hand, expressing his disbelief that Blue Meow was truly unconscious, and even let out an eerie laugh. Lin Chuan wanted to see how long Blue Meow could keep acting. Lin Chuan carefully placed Blue Meow on a surface next to an infected mouse, taking aim with the Blood Elf gun. He squeezed the trigger, and the bullet struck the mouse's tail, splitting it into two. However, what happened next was utterly astonishing. The mouse began to burn spontaneously, starting from its tail, and the flames spread rapidly. Both Lin Chuan and Blue Meow were shocked by this unexpected turn of events. Blue Meow had awakened from its apparent unconsciousness, keeping his acting skills aside, and they couldn't believe what they had just witnessed. With Blue Meow's frightful attempt to escape, Lin Chuan firmly grasped the cat's tail. He was now certain that Blue Meow was no ordinary feline, especially since it had emerged from the metal and wooden red ball created by Wellington. Lin Chuan once again urged Blue Meow to reveal its true identity. The next morning, Lin Chuan decided to take a shortcut to work, believing that doing so would ensure he was never late. He leaped over walls and obstacles with agility and finally arrived at his workplace. As he landed safely on the ground, he noticed an unexpected presence. There, in the diminishing fog, a figure emerged, and Lin Chuan quickly recognized Vice Commander Mike. This was surprising because Mike was a member of the County Rayleigh 12 Special Guard team, and his presence at this early hour was unusual. Vice Commander Mike's demeanor shifted from surprise to anger as he confronted Lin Chuan, saying that he and his team members had taken the spotlight. He expressed his jealousy about Lin Chuan seemingly winning team leader Su's favor and questioned why Lin Chuan had gained her approval. With a fierce declaration, Mike threatened to disfigure Lin Chuan's face. The tension between them was palpable. Lin Chuan was taken aback by Mike's accusations and found himself somewhat confused. He pondered whether Mike was truly addressing him. Realizing that Mike was probably a fan of Su Duanpo, he attempted to defuse the situation and assured Mike that there was no need to resort to such drastic measures as turning his face into mud. In an attempt to lighten the mood and ease the tension, Lin Chuan encouraged Mike to calm down and added a playful comment. He mentioned that if rumors spread, team leader Su could indeed ruin his face, implying that she had the power to do so metaphorically through her authority and influence. As the situation escalates, Lin Chuan becomes increasingly concerned and attempts to contact team leader Su for assistance. However, he quickly discovers that there's no signal in the area. Mike, reveling in his sinister plan, informs Lin Chuan that he's blocked all signals and emits an evil laugh. It becomes clear to Lin Chuan that Mike is not simply causing trouble but is intent on taking his life. Mike then reveals his true identity as a hidden blood successor. He acknowledges the role of the Blood Elves in empowering him to carry out this act and lunges at Lin Chuan with the intent to kill him. Lin Chuan desperately pleads with Mike to calm down and proposes that they return to the police base. He suggests that Mike could help by revealing the location of the Blood Elves to contribute to the police's efforts. As the tense showdown unfolds, Lin Chuan, in a bid to fend off Vice Commander Mike, deploys a protective shield. Mike relentlessly charges at Lin Chuan, but he's met with Lin Chuan's determined counterattack. Lin Chuan recognizes that the Blood Elves have been acting strangely lately, and it's time for him to update his own tactics. Lin Chuan clicks his fingers, and a group of white mice gathers around him. These mice have been modified with potent anesthesia, and they are about to play a crucial role. Knowing he lacks the speed to take on Mike directly, Lin Chuan decides to use their numbers. He's well prepared to incapacitate his enemy with a paralysis attack. Lin Chuan also possesses fire silver bullets, which can deal a deadly blow with perfect timing. However, as Vice Commander Mike is a member of Team 12, Lin Chuan refrains from using lethal force. Instead, he plans to subdue Mike and extract information about the mastermind behind these events. However, during this critical moment, Lin Chuan starts to feel discomfort as if his chest is about to burst. He realizes that he's on the verge of breaking through to the 7th stage, though the timing couldn't be more inconvenient. The timing of Lin Chuan's breakthrough couldn't have been worse. He found himself in a situation where achieving this new level was both a blessing and a curse. As Vice Commander Mike charged at him, taunting him to just die, Lin Chuan struggled to control his body amidst this sudden transformation. Lin Chuan's last resort was to command the white mice to administer a paralysis attack on the enemy. But Mike, in an extraordinary display of agility, swiftly bypassed this trap, leaving Lin Chuan in a state of shock. Mike's extraordinary speed and strength surpassed any foe Lin Chuan had faced before, making him question the logic of it all. Mike delivered a powerful punch, sending Lin Chuan crashing to the ground. As Mike approached him with sinister intentions, Lin Chuan realized he was facing an adversary far stronger than any he'd encountered. He contemplated the possibility of making a run for it, but Mike caught him in the act, laughing at his predicament. With a menacing warning, Mike declared that there was no escape, and he intended to dismember Lin Chuan right there and right now. Out of nowhere, a massive brick came hurtling through the air, connecting squarely with Vice Commander Mike's face. Mike, seething with anger, shouted for the mysterious assailant to reveal themselves. More bricks rained down on Mike, prompting him to demand that the thrower step forward. Lin Chuan, equally curious, wondered about the identity of this new player. Just then, emerging from the mist, a colossal, shadowy figure appeared. It was none other than Blue Meow. Blue Meow made a grand entrance, greeting Lin Chuan with a classic meow. Lin Chuan, visibly bewildered, questioned the cat about its presence. Blue Meow confidently stood next to a brick and meowed loudly, proudly stating that he had followed Lin Chuan to save his life. While Lin Chuan couldn't entirely comprehend the cat's words, the smug expression on Blue Meow's face indicated that it was no ordinary situation, and this little fellow was up to no good. Vice Commander Mike burst into laughter, mocking Lin Chuan for seeking salvation from a cat. However, his laughter came to an abrupt halt as he began to realize that this feline possessed extraordinary strength. He couldn't help but wonder about the true nature of this seemingly remarkable cat. Blue Meow, with a defiant growl, emphasized that he was no mere object. Blue Meow then tries to inform Lin Chuan that he wasn't strong enough to win against this scoundrel, so he asked Lin Chuan if there was a way to escape quickly. He offered to buy some time for Lin Chuan. Lin Chuan assured Blue Meow that he was indeed strong and that he had a plan for their escape. He explained the plan involving the headband he had created. Blue Meow was slightly uncomfortable, recalling the incident with the crazy rats, but he agreed to the plan. With their plan in place, they faced the intense battle. After a fierce exchange, Vice Commander Mike emerged from the chaos, clutching his head in pain. He was disoriented and couldn't understand why he was there. Suddenly, a message from the Blood Elves arrived, informing him that his body wasn't stable after receiving the blood. They recommended he lay low for a few days to acclimatize to the changes and avoid getting caught. Mike informs the Blood Elves that he would head over there right away. Lin Chuan and Blue Meow closely observed Vice Commander Mike from a window. Lin Chuan explained to Blue Meow that the effect of the Blood Elf brain-disrupting headband was limited, erasing memories for roughly only 2 hours. They saw this as an opportunity to find out the location of the Blood Elves' base. Their mission to uncover the base's whereabouts had officially begun. Lin Chuan meticulously tracked Vice Commander Mike, and as Mike arrived at his destination, Lin Chuan realized that it was the same place that had caused his sudden headache earlier. It became clear that this was indeed the base of the Blood Elves. Inside the base, Vice Commander Mike enters, and Lady Chamora, accompanied by her most trusted companion, awaits to welcome him. Lady Chamora mentions that the operation for September 9th is approaching and warns Mike not to cause any trouble until then. She instructs him to stay in the base for a few more days. Mike, however, questions Lady Chamora's greed, doubting whether her plan will truly work. This irks Lady Chamora, and she scolds Mike, reminding him that they have multiple plans and he shouldn't inquire about things beyond his role. She firmly emphasizes that he is just a blood successor. On the midnight of September 9th, on the Leba Bridge, a massive vehicle was on its way when it was suddenly halted by officers. The driver presented the required documents and inquired about the roadblock, wondering if something was going on in White Arrow Harbor. The officer informed the driver that it was almost mid-year, and if any more incidents occurred, they might lose their jobs. Once the inspection was completed, the officer allowed the vehicle to continue its journey. Inside the vehicle, the occupants grinned widely, knowing they were all set for the upcoming operation. They needed to report to their madam, Lady Chamora, that everything was in order. The following morning, chaos gripped White Arrow Harbor City as a series of random explosions rattled the area. Concerned officers reported these incidents to their captain, suspecting a terrorist attack. They urgently sought orders to deal with the situation. Another officer informed their captain about the ongoing explosions in the harbor, echoing the suspicion of a terrorist attack and requesting immediate guidance. Meanwhile, Lady Chamora and a group of blood elves were closely monitoring the explosions. She felt satisfied that her plan was working, diverting the police's attention to the city. According to the next phase of the plan, they aimed to target a large dam, intending to unleash a torrent of water to flood White Arrow Harbor. Lady Chamora gave orders to ensure there would be no reinforcements and instructed her followers to eliminate anyone inside the dam. The blood successors charged towards the dam, their excitement palpable, with an intent to carry out their gruesome task. Upon entering the building, they began a merciless killing spree, murdering anyone unfortunate enough to cross their path. They also planted flesh bombs alongside these horrifying acts. Team leader Su, along with Lin Chuan, Mu Xuangai, and Mai Lan, speculated that the explosions were most likely caused by the flesh bombs. Lin Chuan, with a nervous demeanor, concluded that it was evident the enemy's plan was to annihilate everyone in White Arrow Harbor. While team leader Su concurred with this assessment, she inquired how he had discerned this information. Lin Chuan hesitated to respond, but team leader Su brushed it aside, recognizing the urgency of the situation. She lamented that if she had known earlier, she would have brought more assistance, but now it was too late. Moreover, only the Blood Elves had the capability to defuse these flesh bombs once they were planted. This revelation left Lin Chuan wondering about their options. Team leader Su, unable to tolerate the situation any longer, leaped forward and instructed the junior members to deal with the individuals setting up the explosives, while she would go after the leader. The three of them promptly followed their leader's orders, fully aware that the safety of White Arrow Harbor now rested on their shoulders. They understood that this mission was going to be exceptionally challenging, but they were the only ones capable of facing this threat. Lin Chuan and the others took a few moments to mentally prepare themselves and then embarked on their perilous journey. Meanwhile, the Blood Elves continued their merciless rampage, using their deadly shrieks and brutality to torment innocent people. Lin Chuan and Mu Xuangai confronted them head-on, opening fire without hesitation. The bloodsuckers were caught off guard, and although one of them realized it was Mu Xuangai, it was too late as Lin Chuan swiftly dispatched this monster with a single precise shot. As the team entered the generator room, they were met with a gruesome scene. Everyone inside was dead, and the room was rigged with flesh bombs. Furthermore, the team had no clue where the Blood Elves had gone. Lin Chuan informed the others that he and Mu Xuangai had managed to rescue 2 individuals from Section A, and there appeared to be fewer enemies in their vicinity. However, the whereabouts of the Blood Elves remained a mystery. Lin Chuan also conveyed that there were flesh bombs in their location. The 2 other team members in the generator room acknowledged this information and informed Lin Chuan that they would begin searching for enemies, proposing that they maintain contact should anything go amiss. Meanwhile, Mu Xuangai was occupied with interviewing the surviving officers, inquiring about their well-being and any information they might have regarding the enemy's movements. The shaken officers had little information to offer, explaining that the assailants had abruptly burst into the room and started killing people. With a lack of concrete details, Mu Xuangai turned to Lin Chuan, seeking guidance on their next course of action. Realizing that searching section by section would be time-consuming and potentially fruitless, they made the decision to head directly to the monitor room. Upon entering the monitor room, Lin Chuan and his team discovered a gruesome sight, with lifeless bodies strewn about. Among the corpses, Lin Chuan spotted a blood elf, realizing that the blood elf captain had been here as well. The chaos created by these malefactors had disrupted the entire system. While investigating the room, Lin Chuan sensed an exceptionally potent evil aura, surpassing any he had encountered before. He deduced that these individuals must be the Blood Elf leaders. Lin Chuan promptly relayed this discovery to Team Leader Su, informing her of the leaders' presence at the lowest floor of the water dam and the likelihood of their escape through the water tunnel. Su Duanpo wasted no time upon receiving the message, hastening towards their location. Lin Chuan, however, expressed concern about the strength and numbers of the foes they were facing, doubting whether Team Leader Su could handle them alone. Team Leader Su, visibly irritated, assured Lin Chuan that she didn't require the concern of a mere trainee, and urged him to leave the matter to her. Lin Chuan was resolute in creating an opportunity for Team Leader Su. He turned to Mu Xuan'ai and inquired whether she had brought explosives from the armory before they left. Confirming that she had indeed brought some, Mu Xuan'ai asked Lin Chuan about his plan. Lin Chuan explained that they would gather the enemies in one location and then detonate the explosives. Given the layout of the area, it was clear that the Blood Elves would be heading to the elevator, which meant their only escape route would be through the emergency stairs. Lin Chuan's plan was to block off the emergency stairs, forcing the Blood Elves to head to the generator room in order to use the elevator. To put this plan into action, Lin Chuan quickly contacted Mai Lun and asked if he was near the generator room. If he was, Lin Chuan requested that Mai Lun use the explosives to destroy the emergency exit. Mai Lun inquired if this was Lin Chuan's plan, but Lin Chuan, pressed for time, didn't provide a detailed explanation. Instead, he instructed Mai Lun to turn off the power to the elevator, destroy the emergency stairs, and set up explosives in the generator room. Lin Chuan informed Mai Lun that they would join him as soon as possible. Mai Lun acknowledged the orders. Lin Chuan then relayed the plan to Team Leader Su, asking her to proceed to the generator room to meet with Instructor Cray and Mai Lun. He assured her that he and Mu Xuan'ai would join them later. Team Leader Su appeared to be both confused and somewhat offended by the decision. In the urgency of the situation, Lin Chuan tried to convince Team Leader Su, and he implored her to trust him. Understanding the limited time they had, he emphasized the need to act quickly. Team Leader Su, despite her initial reservations, agreed to believe in Lin Chuan, acknowledging that if things went wrong and they faced danger, they would face it together, die together. As the Blood Elves and monsters were stealthily making their way through the corridors to escape, a sudden power outage plunged them into darkness. The elevator came to a halt, further adding to their confusion. Then, a deafening explosion echoed from the stairs, leaving Lady Chamora and her group bewildered about the situation. Suddenly, announcements blared from all directions, catching the attention of the Blood Elves. The announcements clearly stated that the police had surrounded the Blood Elves, urging them to come out and surrender immediately. Larkin's overexcitement led him to charge at the police, shouting threats of killing them all. However, Lady Chamora, exasperated with his behavior, ordered her companions to just ignore him. Time was running out, and she urged them to hurry to the generator room and restore power. Meanwhile, in the monitor room, Lin Chuan was actively making announcements and trying to intimidate the enemies. Mu Xuan'ai inquired about the situation, and Lin Chuan informed her that the enemies had taken the bait. Their next move was to head to the generator room and regroup with the others. Back in the generator room, Team Leader Su asked about the plan, and Mai Lun assured her that all preparations had been completed. Su Duanpo was pleased and prepared to ambush the enemies when they arrived, ready to give them a big surprise. Lin Chuan and Mu Xuan'ai continued their journey toward the generator room, while the enemy team hurried to make their escape. In another corridor, Larkin encountered Lin Chuan and Mu Xuan'ai. He recognized Lin Chuan from their previous encounter on the bridge and expressed his intention to exact revenge by tearing the kid to pieces. This encounter sparked a fierce battle, and it appeared that Larkin had the upper hand in this intense confrontation. Inside the generator room, the Blood Elves finally arrived. Lady Chamora expressed her concerns about finding the problem with the generator. However, Team Leader Su confidently walked in and told them that they didn't need to search for the issue. She revealed an electric box, which she declared was the main power source for the generator room. She informed them that they had blown up the emergency stairs and cut off the power, effectively trapping the Blood Elves inside. Su Duanpo taunted and roasted the enemies, questioning if they could escape before the flesh bombs exploded. Lady Chamora addressed Su Duanpo as Miss Director and inquired if she was there for negotiations. She also suggested that it might be better to eliminate Su Duanpo, as she appeared to be the mastermind behind the situation. Su Duanpo was seething with anger and, in a fit of frustration, flung the electric box, making it clear that the enemy should know how to disarm the flesh bombs. Another member of the Special Guard team seized the main power box. Team leader Su then asked the enemies if they were ready to begin. There were more of them, but the balance of fear seemed to shift. Su Duanpo elevated herself, prepared to confront the enemies, and provoked them to come and try to kill her. Lady Chamora ordered the Blood Elves to attack, retrieve the main battery, and eliminate all of them. Su Duanpo found this situation rather entertaining. Meanwhile, Lin Chuan and Mu Xuan'ai were struggling. Both of them had sustained significant injuries, and Lin Chuan, in a fit of coughing, advised Mu Xuan'ai to escape, as the opponent was too formidable for her. Mu Xuan'ai was furious and retorted that Lin Chuan should stop talking nonsense because she wasn't about to leave him behind. Larkin, on the other hand, let out an evil laugh and assured them not to worry, as he would ensure they remained together forever. He declared that couples should meet their demise together and unleashed another attack towards them. In the generator room, Su Duanpo gathered all her strength to confront the enemies. The cloaked blood elf proved to be an extremely formidable adversary, and he opened a mysterious book, revealing powerful dark magic. The two seemed evenly matched in their battle. Meanwhile, Mai Lun swiftly activated the explosives, and Instructor Cray pressed the button, resulting in a series of explosions throughout various sections. Back in the confrontation with Larkin, who had attacked the struggling duo of Lin Chuan and Mu Xuan'ai relentlessly, he declared that he was finished playing and was now ready to send both of them to hell. Lin Chuan and Mu Xuan'ai, struggling to stand, believed their end was near. But then, they witnessed a remarkable, radiant phenomenon, shining as brightly as the most brilliant star. Mu Xuan'ai couldn't help but notice that something extraordinary was taking place with Lin Chuan. She appeared utterly bewildered and concerned. Even Larkin was at a loss to comprehend the situation. As the dust settled, they both witnessed Lin Chuan standing there, upright and radiating a completely different aura, as though he had just undergone a system upgrade. Here's the video ends. Guys, if you like this recap, then like the video. I will meet you in another video. Till then, bye.